Chapter 977. The battle formation collapsed. The experts of the Qin sect were like tigers entering a flock of sheep as they started their slaughter. The leader of the Dongshengshan Gate retreated into the crowd. His countenance was pale as he stared at the gigantic silhouette before him. It was none other than Qin Wenyan. This Qin Wenyan actually led so many experts to break the formation. The 300-plus geniuses of the Dongshengshan Gate slaughtered their way into the city of ancient emperors. Were they going to die here today? Both sides were already mortal enemies. Qin Wenyan showed no mercy to them. Every time his spear struck out, someone would definitely die. Qi! A dazzling immortal light radiated forth. The leader of the battle formation took out an immortal-ranked weapon. Finally, because of despair, because he knew it was impossible to reverse the situation, he chose to take out his immortal-ranked weapon. The expressions of the experts of the Dongshengshan Gate stiffened when they saw this scene. Right now, there was only one path left. Only by taking out immortal-ranked weapons would they have a chance of survival. The long spear in Qin Wentian's hand abruptly shot out explosively, resembling an incomparably resplendent bolt of lightning as it pierced towards the first immortal-ranked expert who took out an immortal-ranked weapon. This fearsome spear contained a supreme killing might. That person had a look of terror on his face. He didn't even have time to think. He directly blocked the immortal-ranked weapon before him. With a thunderous boom, the atmosphere was stifling as another long spear shot over. This spear gleamed with immortal light. It was none other than an immortal-ranked weapon forged by Qin Wenyan in the past. The long spear expanded explosively, reaching a length of several hundred meters, piercing through the air and directly into the body of that immortal-ranked expert, nailing him to the ground. A terrifying fluctuation gushed forth as an immortal sense manifested from that immortal-ranked expert. An incomparably imposing voice rang out as a beam of cold light shot towards Qin Wenyan. "Vile beast, you are courting death." A roar of rage rang out. But at the same instant, a beam of destructive light cascaded down from the sky. Boundless destructive runes directly imprinted themselves on the body of the immortal king. As the sound of his voice faded, his immortal sense directly disintegrated, transforming into nothingness. Faintly, there was still an illusory figure that hadn't completely dissipated. He inclined his head and stared at the sky as he let out a roar of unwillingness. This scene could be said to be shocking, causing the experts of the Dongshengshan Gate to slow down as they took out their immortal weapons. Whoever takes out an immortal weapon will be the first to be annihilated. Qin Wenyan coldly spoke. With the immortal-ranked weapons in his hands, a terrifying immortal light radiated from the bodies of the geniuses of the Qin sect. It was as though as long as someone from the Dongshengshan Gate took out an immortal-ranked weapon, that person would instantly become the target of everyone. No matter how they fought, this seemed to be a dead end, an unresolvable situation. The disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate who killed their way into the city of ancient emperors were destined to encounter a calamity of death. Everyone flee in different directions, as many as you can escape alive. A thunderous roar rang out from the crowd of people from the Dongshengshan Gate. This seemed to be the only solution. They could only flee with their lives on the line, killing their way out in different directions. If they could escape alive, that would depend on their luck. It's over. The morale of the Dongshengshan Gate's members is low, and their defeat is irreversible. This time around, their defeat would be even more miserable. The spectating geniuses silently mused. The army was defeated like a landslide. This was a battle of over 1,000 people, and the morale of the crowd was extremely important. The people of the Dongshengshan Gate no longer had the heart to continue fighting. All of them were thinking of killing their way out. Hence, they couldn't even withstand a single strike, as more and more experts were killed. Hua Taishu, your master, the myriad incarnations immortal king, lives in the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures and is filled with reverence for his majesty. You actually dared to act against the disciples of my Dongshengshan Gate? All of a sudden, a voice filled with rage rang out from the crowd. In the competition between geniuses in the city of ancient emperors, everyone has their own master. Since I, Hua Taishu, have joined the Qin sect, I naturally have to fight. In addition, back then when you guys surrounded the disciples of the Qin sect, you didn't show me any mercy. What does it mean to implicate my master? Hua Taishu emotionlessly spoke. This is my personal matter. In addition, although I fought, I didn't kill a single person from the Dongshangshan Gate. In the immortal realms, even if there was a life and death battle between juniors, the elders would rarely interfere. For example, if a disciple of an immortal king killed a disciple of the Dongshangshan Gate because of a conflict, could it be that the Dongxing Heaven Emperor would act against the master of that disciple? Unless the person he killed was a descendant of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor or a personal disciple he liked. Naturally, this time around, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor ordered over 300 disciples to kill their way into the city of ancient emperors to kill Qin Wenyin. Hua Taishu, standing on the side of the Qin sect, would definitely cause the Dongshangshan Gate to feel a grudge against the myriad incarnations immortal king. However, Hua Taishu didn't care so much. The myriad incarnations immortal king only resided in the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures, and although she would occasionally go to the Dongxing Heaven Emperor's banquet, she couldn't be considered a subordinate of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. If the Dongxing Heaven Emperor wasn't happy, the myriad incarnations immortal king would at most leave Dongxing Heaven Emperor's territory. Hua Taishu, it's best if you don't step foot into the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures in the future. If not, the Dongshangshan Gate will definitely not spare you. A disciple of the Dongshangshan Gate coldly spoke. Qin Wentian's gaze slowly turned over. Those minor formations weren't of much threat, and were all destroyed by Jun Mingchen and the others. As for the Devil Ape battle formation, victory was already in their grasp. Whether he participated or not, victory would be theirs. Right now, there was only one more formation that hadn't been broken. However, Namhuang Yunshi and Little Rascal were still working hard. Let's go and lend the Southern Phoenix a hand. Qin Wentian spoke to Qin nodded and returned to Qin Wentian's side. Brothers, I'll leave this place to you guys. Qin Wentian spoke in a clear voice. Don't worry, I love to beat up dogs when they're down. Someone laughed. Using numbers to bully the weak? Are the geniuses of the city of ancient emperors all so shameless? Many disciples of the Dongshangshan Gate were already flustered and exasperated. They frenziedly tried to kill their way out of the encirclement, becoming prey in a cage. I'm truly impressed by you guys from the Dongshangshan Gate. What kind of courage do you guys need to say such shameless words? A disciple from the Qin sect laughed loudly. Before this, you guys had over 300 geniuses in a battle formation to deal with over 100 disciples from the Qin sect, yet you guys still dared to say such words? How thick must your skin be? Now, let's let you guys enjoy the taste of being surrounded. Are these people from the Dongshangshan Gate all so amusing? The Dongxing Heaven Emperor has truly nurtured a bunch of good disciples. Those from the Qin sect had the absolute advantage, and their tone was extremely relaxed. As they spoke, Qin Wentian and Qin rushed towards the cauldron formation. Qin Wentian's long spear once again blasted out with heaven-shaking might. Namhuang Yunshi and Little Rascal were extremely excited when they saw the reinforcements from Qin Wentian and Qin. Their attacks grew even more ferocious. Other than that, Qin Wentian and many others also joined in, frenziedly attacking the cauldron formation. Staring at the densely packed disciples of the Qin sect, as well as the other battles, the disciples of the Dongshangshan Gate all had looks of panic on their faces. Their will to fight was already on the brink of collapse. They appeared awe-inspiring and powerful, but everyone was well aware that they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. The Qin sect's disciples had cold smiles on their faces. They were like evil smiles of judgment, and they were preparing to reap their lives. What should we do? Finally, someone couldn't help but cry out involuntarily. No one could remain completely calm in the face of death. Their hearts were being corroded bit by bit. Boom! An earth-shattering shockwave spread out, and the battle formation was on the verge of collapse. Let's surrender! Someone lost his composure and roared. Qin Wentian. At this moment, a voice came out from the giant cauldron, shouting towards the outside, "Stop fighting for now, we have something to say." The disciples of the Qin sect stared at Qin Wenyan, only to see Qin Wentian's countenance turning ice-cold as he coldly stated, "Continue to break the formation, kill." Truce? What a joke. When the Dongshangshan Gate is in a disadvantageous position, it wants to stop the war. A scream rang out. Cracks had already appeared on the halo of the giant cauldron. Some of the experts in the battle formation were injured by Qin Wentian's attack. The terrifying vibrational force rushed into the battle formation. "We are willing to stop fighting and surrender, leaving the city of ancient emperors." The people of the Dongshangshan Gate roared. However, Qin Wentian's attacks didn't seem to have any intentions of stopping. Was this a joke? "We will hand over our interspatial rings, please spare our lives." Someone completely collapsed. More and more experts were injured. The Dongshangshan Gate is nothing but a joke. Qin Wenyan icily spoke. When they surrounded him, how tyrannical were they? Now that they were in an absolute disadvantage, stop fighting? Surrender? Indeed, these people are like clowns. It's fine if the Dongshangshan Gate lost, but now, their face has been thrown away by these people. The spectators were all sighing. Finally, a deafening sound rang out as the victor of the battle was shattered. A one-sided slaughter had begun, and the disciples of the Eastern Sage Immortal sect finally took out their immortal-ranked weapons. But facing against the number of geniuses from the Qin sect who outnumbered them by several times, even if they took out their immortal-ranked weapons, there was no way for them to reverse the situation. Fresh blood flowed unceasingly through the air. The spectators felt their hearts trembling when they saw this. This was the largest battle they had ever witnessed in the city of ancient emperors. Similarly, there had never been so many experts dying in a single battle before. Today, a precedent had been set. This was destined to be a calamity for the Dongshangshan Gate. In the Eastern Immortal City, at the Dongshangshan Gate, there were numerous majestic halls that exuded an ancient and glorious aura. However, at this moment, an incomparably tyrannical aura could be felt within the majestic halls. After which, a voice rang out, soaring up into the sky. "Emperor has fallen." An old man's rage towered up into the sky as he soared into the air. "My good disciple, something major has happened in the city of ancient emperors." More and more figures soared up into the sky as roars of rage rang out, causing the entire Dongshangshan Gate to tremble. In the public square before a majestic hall, more and more experts appeared. All of their expressions were incomparably sharp, cold to the extreme. Their disciples were sent out to carry out missions, and now, all of them had fallen one after another. There were people who sent their immortal senses into the city of ancient emperors, and after witnessing the battle, they knew that the disciples of the Dongshangshan Gate were finished. What happened? An immortal king of the Dongshangshan Gate who didn't know what was going on walked over and asked. However, all of them had heavy expressions on their faces. But even so, they didn't dare to blame His Majesty for giving the order. Rumble. Above the sky, there was a faint shocking aura spreading down. There seemed to be a terrifying flame in the sky, as if a super expert had appeared. "It's a paragon. The paragon is enraged." The immortal kings of the Dongshangshan Gate felt their hearts pounding. Out of the 4 paragons of the Dongshangshan Gate, one of them was sent to the city of ancient emperors to lead the disciples of the Dongshangshan Gate to kill Qin Wenyan. At this moment, a heaven-shaking emperor might gushed forth as an illusory shadow appeared in the air. This figure stood high up in the clouds, trampling the heavens. This was none other than the silhouette of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. However, this wasn't the true body of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. In the future, if the people of my Dongshangshan Gate encounter Qin Wenyan, Jun Mingchen, Zi Qingxian and the others, kill them all without mercy, including the disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king, Hua Taishu. A cold voice rang out from the sky, filled with imposingness and towering anger. This time around, the Dongshangshan Gate had lost all face. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor personally gave the order, sending over 300 genius disciples to their deaths. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor's anger towered up into the sky. He didn't even give face to the myriad incarnations immortal king and directly gave the order to kill her disciple, Hua Taishu. Chapter 978. In the city of ancient emperors, corpses littered the ground as blood flowed like rivers. It was unknown how many experts had fallen in this battle. In this battle, the Qin sect had an overwhelming advantage, suppressing the disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate. Although many of them were injured by the battle formation, not a single one of them died. This was because the Dongshengshan Gate was at an absolute disadvantage, and they had no way to take advantage of the situation to kill their disciples. The disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate were suppressed from the start to the end. Once the battle formation was broken, a massacre ensued. Although there were some who managed to kill their way out, this battle was already a lesson learned through blood. Most probably, the Dongshengshan Gate would feel heartache for quite some time. Who knew what the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, who gave the order, would feel? Most probably, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was currently enraged and wanted nothing more than to tear Qin Wendian and the others into 1,000 pieces. Qin Wendian's strength is completely incomparable to the past. This is a transformation. Not only him, Nam Huang Yunxi, Princess Qing, and even Jun Mingchen, Zi Qingxian, and their demonic beasts have all transformed as well. Their combat prowess is extraordinary. The geniuses in the surroundings couldn't remain calm when they saw the ending of the battle. After this battle, there would be a heaven-shaking change in the Immortal Ascension rankings. The top 10 rankings would be completely rearranged, and many names would be removed from the top 10 rankings. Qin Wenyan swept his gaze over the battlefield as his body gradually returned to its normal size. His entire body was still shimmering with light as he clasped his hands to the experts of the Qin sect. Qin, thank you for your help in this battle. If not, I would have been in a disadvantageous position and would have been hunted down by the members of the Dongshengshan Gate. Sect leader is too polite. We are all brothers after joining the Qin sect. We couldn't bear to see the actions of the Dongshengshan Gate and the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, which was why we decided to participate in this battle. We wanted to teach the Dongxing Heaven Emperor a lesson about the rules of the city of ancient emperors. He didn't want his own disciples to slaughter their way into the city of ancient emperors. That's right. Brother Qin's combat capability in this battle can be said to be earth-shattering and admirable. It was us who destroyed the Dongshengshan Gate, and we can't stand them. In the next battle, Brother Qin needs to solve it himself. Brother Qin, I can see that your strength is already sufficient to fight against Zi Daoyang and Mo Xie. Next, we will cheer for you and look forward to you challenging the peak of the Immortal Ascension rankings. The disciples of the Qin sect will be able to witness this pinnacle battle. We are all filled with anticipation. The geniuses of the Qin sect spoke one after another. Being able to participate in this grand event in the city of ancient emperors, they were all willing to do so. If not, they wouldn't have joined the Qin sect in the first place. These geniuses were all hot-blooded people, and they loved to watch battles like this the most. There had never been anyone who could challenge the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang, and the second ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even Nam Huang Yunxi, who was ranked third, had failed. Now, it all depended on the transformed Qin Wenyan. Would he be able to defeat Zi Daoyang and Mo Xie from the divine altar in the city of ancient emperors? Don't worry, as long as the members of the Violet sect and Evil Palace don't participate in the battle, the disciples of the Qin sect only need to watch. I, Qin Wenyan, have already broken through to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, so why would I be willing to join forces with others to fight against Zi Daoyang and Mo Xie? If that's the case, I wouldn't be fit to be the sect leader of the Qin sect. Qin Wendian spoke in a clear voice, exuding a heroic aura. Good. The disciples of the Qin sect all cheered, filled with anticipation for this battle. Do you think you're invincible in the city of ancient emperors just because you defeated the members of the Dongshengshan Gate? Don't forget, the members of the Dongshengshan Gate are merely a bunch of motley crew. Given Qin Wendian's strength, although he might be able to hold his own in front of the disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate, he wouldn't even be able to withstand a single strike from Gij Daoyang, the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Don't be too overconfident. If not, I'm afraid it wouldn't be long before you all become the laughingstock of the city of ancient emperors. Xiao Lingyue saw that Qin Wendian and the others were speaking one after another, as though victory was already in their grasp. Her words instantly turned cold, mocking the members of the Qin sect. The countenances of the experts from the Qin sect froze. Although Xiao Lingyue's words were arrogant, they weren't without reason. Before this, Qin Wentian's performance was extremely domineering. In front of the disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate, he was like a god of war, unstoppable and unstoppable. However, a battle like this also depended on the opponent. Because the opponent was weak, Qin Wendian would appear stronger. This was very normal. But if the opponent was Zi Daoyang, the situation would be different. Zi Daoyang, the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, had always been an invincible existence in the city of ancient emperors. In addition, not only had he obtained a portion of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, he had also devoured the inheritances of others, growing even stronger. As for Mo Xie, he himself was already incomparably tyrannical, and had also entered the antiquity city like Qin Wenin. How could he be weak? Everything still depended on the battle. You have long become the laughingstock of the city of ancient emperors, yet your mouth is still so shameless. Jun Mingchen stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't care if his opponent was a beautiful woman or not, directly insulting her with words. He truly couldn't stand this Xiao Lingyue from a very long time ago. And now, she was actually still so ugly, calling him Daoyang Gij again and again. How disgusting. Xiao Lingyue pointed her finger at Jun Mingchen from afar. What about you? Jun Mingchen stepped out. Do you want to fight? Let's fight one-on-one, a life-and-death battle. Your father's immortal sense has already been destroyed, right? Don't try to seduce other men just because you want to fight. Jun Mingchen's aura was extremely sharp, filled with provocation. Xiao Lingyue's anger intensified, and a cold qi gushed forth from her body, gushing forth. Fight! Xiao Lingyue coldly snorted. No matter what, she was once ranked number 6 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. How could she swallow this humiliation after being humiliated by a 7th-level ascendant like Jun Mingchen? Xiao Lingyue was about to step out, yet Zi Daoyang stretched his hand out to block her. Zi Daoyang's eyes gleamed with a violet light as he stared at Jun Mingchen. Bullying a woman? Don't you feel any shame? If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. Killing you is as easy as lifting a hand. My junior brother is the same as me. When he entered the city of ancient emperors, he was only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. At that time, you were already the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. You actually dared to challenge my junior brother with a sense of superiority? Don't you feel any shame? Qin Wendian calmly spoke. After that, he stepped out and faced Zi Daoyang. Since Mo Xie isn't here yet, I shall fight you, Zi Daoyang. After speaking, Qin Wendian pointed his finger at Zi Daoyang. Scram out here. Scram out here? His voice reverberated through the heavens and earth, echoing unceasingly. The experts of the Qin sect all retreated, opening up the battlefield. Even Jun Mingchen and the others retreated, standing behind Qin Wenin. Their gazes were filled with provocation as they stared at Zi Daoyang. They were all filled with anticipation for this battle. The people of the Violet sect also retreated. There was no need for Zi Daoyang to say anything, they had already done so. Zi Daoyang had to fight, he had no reason not to. The city of ancient emperors was a place where geniuses gathered. Compared to ordinary people, they valued strength and pride even more. If Zi Daoyang still didn't fight, there was no need for the people of the Violet sect to follow Zi Daoyang. Qin Wentian's Qin sect had the advantage in numbers, yet they didn't initiate an inter-sect war. Instead, they wanted to challenge Zi Daoyang, the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Did they have any reason to refuse? There was none. The instant Qin Wendian stepped out, the outcome of this battle was already determined. Boom! Zi Daoyang stepped out as violet light revolved around him. His constellation shone brightly, exuding a terrifying might. Even his eyes turned violet, radiating a soul-stirring violet light. He spoke with incomparable arrogance. I once said that even if you stepped into the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, you wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike. Since you wish for death so much, I shall grant you your wish. Qin Wenyin similarly stepped out, a violent aura gushing forth as his constellation shone in the air. His divine eyes gleamed like lightning as he coldly spoke. I really don't know where your confidence comes from. The confidence of the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, the number 1 ranker of the City of Ancient Emperors. Zi Daoyang's arrogance soared to the clouds as he pointed his finger at Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin, you are destined to become a joke, nailed to the pillar of shame in the City of Ancient Emperors, becoming the laughingstock of the entire City of Ancient Emperors. This man is the most pretentious person I've ever seen. I really want nothing more than to rush up and give him a good beating. Jun Mingchen's personality was impulsive. His aura erupted forth, and he couldn't help but want to rush out and fight Zi Daoyang. This fellow was too pretentious, to the point where even ghosts and gods would weep. It was as though he was the number 1 expert under the heavens. Although right now, Zi Daoyang was indeed the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Arrogance. The eyes of the experts in the surroundings gleamed with a dazzling light. Qin Wenyin was a rising star, challenging Zi Daoyang, a genius at the peak of the City of Ancient Emperors. Could he really defeat him? Or was it like what Zi Daoyang had said? He was destined to be nailed to the pillar of shame. Everything would be revealed very soon. Zi Daoyang circulated his 2 ultimate arts, the Ultimate Violet Saint Immortal Art and the Thousand Autumns Emperor Art. A divine-like shadow appeared in the air. This was none other than his constellation, unexcelled in the world. He, Zi Daoyang, had never been defeated before in the City of Ancient Emperors. The two of them stared at each other, their battle intense towering up into the sky as they clashed madly. Boom! The two of them stepped out at the same time. With just a single step, they traversed the distance between them, facing each other head-on. A supreme might erupted forth from Zi Daoyang, like an undefeatable king. From Qin Wentian's body, a heaven-shaking roar could be heard. Qin Wentian's aura was incomparably majestic and unshakable, like a divinity fighting against the heavens and earth. Die! Zi Daoyang punched out. Violet light converged into the heaven-destroying divine fist, capable of penetrating through everything. Boundless violet runic light circulated around it. Qin Wentian's star-seizing palm imprint could suppress the heavens and earth, containing boundless might. His palm imprint shone with dazzling runic light, containing a supreme destructive might that could destroy everything. The two attacks collided, instantly causing the entire space to tremble. How powerful! Qin Wenyin fought head-on against Zi Daoyang, and he didn't even use the power of God's hand. How powerful! The crowd sighed in admiration. Qin Wentian's current aura was completely different from before. His strength had transformed, and he was now like a god of war. Swish! Zi Daoyang stretched out his left hand as astral light cascaded down from the air, transforming into a gigantic diagram that pierced out with a violet spear. Qin Wenyin didn't hesitate and blasted out another palm imprint. However, it was actually blocked by the boundless runic light. The gigantic light screen dissipated it, and a terrifying might gathered within it. After that, Qin Wentian's star-seizing palm imprint was actually repelled, and it was accompanied by Zi Daoyang's heaven-destroying violet fist, launching a 2-pronged attack. The Thousand Autumns Empyrean art is too powerful, much stronger compared to the Xian Emperor's heavenly mystic mirror art. Even a palm imprint as powerful as Qin Wentian's could be countered, as expected of Zidi's ultimate art. In the past, when Namhuang Yunxi, Princess Qing, and Qin Wenyin fought Zi Daoyang, it was still manageable. But now, Qin Wenyin is alone. He would definitely be countered by the Thousand Autumns Empyrean art. Many people mused in their hearts when they saw this scene. So many people ganged up on Zi Daoyang, and even the Thousand Autumns Empyrean art couldn't be used in time. But if Qin Wenyin was alone, he would definitely be countered by Zidi's ultimate art. Chapter 979. When Qin Wendian saw his own attack and Zi Daoyang's attack gushing over, his countenance didn't change at all. His body was sparkling and translucent, and runic inscriptions circulated around it. A boundless might gushed forth from his body, and he resembled a god of war. Both of his fists punched out explosively, capable of suppressing everything. Two dazzling beams of fiend god light shot out, wanting to penetrate through the heavens and earth, destroying the void. Two heaven-shaking sounds of collision rang out at the same time. A terrifying might swept through the entire space, terrifying to the extreme. However, amidst the chaotic shockwaves, Zi Daoyang's violet long spear pierced out. This violet long spear contained a towering violet qi, containing the power of law energy, and was indestructible. Zidi's ultimate violet saint immortal art was known as the strongest offensive cultivation art. Although it was an exaggeration, the power of its attacks was truly terrifying. This violet long spear whistled through the air, resembling the wails of ghosts and the howls of wolves. It contained an unfathomable might, capable of shattering the heavens and earth. A violet tempest manifested, enveloping the entire space. Boundless energy converged in Qin Wendian's body as numerous sword runes appeared. Each sword rune contained a heaven-shaking might, capable of annihilating everything. Qin Wendian stabbed out with a single finger, causing the entire space to freeze. The sword qi instantly transformed into a beam of white light that enveloped the entire space, capable of annihilating everything. A supremely sharp sword manifested, slamming into the violet long spear, directly tearing it apart. However, there was still some remnant might remaining, and the sword energy continued to surge forward, piercing towards Zi Daoyang. Zi Daoyang retreated, circulating the Thousand Autumns Emperor's art to its limits. Resplendent light shone as the runic inscriptions shone resplendently. When the sharp sword pierced into Zi Daoyang's body, it seemed as though it wanted to tear apart the runic light and penetrate into Zi Daoyang's body. However, it didn't succeed, and was forcibly neutralized. What a powerful attack! Qin Wendian hasn't even unleashed his god's hand, yet his attacks aren't inferior to Zi Daoyang's at all. He's simply too powerful. Before this, when he fought against the experts from the Dongshangshan Gate, he had the absolute advantage. But as for how strong he is exactly, it's impossible to tell. But now that he's fighting against Zi Daoyang, we can truly understand how powerful Qin Wendian's attacks are. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Regardless of the Qin sect, the Violet sect, or the spectators in the City of Ancient Emperors, all of them were shocked by how powerful Qin Wendian was. He didn't even need to borrow the power of God's hand, yet he could still fight head-on against Zi Daoyang. Is this the confidence of the number 1 ranker in the Immortal Ascension rankings? The confidence of the top ranker in the City of Ancient Emperors? Looks like he's only associated. His attacks are actually at a disadvantage. Jun Mingchen spoke in a clear voice. Earlier, Zi Daoyang's words were extremely arrogant and had no one in his eyes. Even before the battle started, he already felt that he could easily suppress Qin Wendian. How laughable! Zi Daoyang would pay a price for his arrogance. The one who would truly be nailed to the pillar of shame in the City of Ancient Emperors would be him, Zi Daoyang. You do have some strength, but if that's all you have, you think you have the ability to defeat me? Isn't that a little too ridiculous? A violet giant appeared behind Zi Daoyang, resembling a heavenly divinity that had descended to the mortal world. Boundless violet light enveloped Zi Daoyang, and every inch of his body flowed with violet light. This was the ultimate violet saint immortal art he had cultivated to the pinnacle. Rumble! That violet giant was like a violet king, and its constellation transformed into a supreme attack power. Numerous violet long spears pierced through the air, all of them exploding towards Qin Wendian. The entire space seemed to be enveloped by a boundlessly vast violet shadow, as the millions of long spears destroyed everything in this area. Qin Wendian coldly snorted, his eyes gleaming with a sharpness akin to lightning. Rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly from within his body as boundless energy churned within. In the air above him, numerous golden silhouettes stood guard in all directions, enveloping Qin Wendian. In an instant, a screen of runic light appeared above Qin Wentian's head, circulating with boundless might. The spears that shot out from the golden silhouettes were directly suppressed before being devoured by the runic light. You are even less of a match for me in terms of constellation. Qin Wentian arrogantly spoke. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out in the air as the sky changed color. His constellation was already extremely powerful, and after experiencing the baptism of the sacred luminance, if it was an ordinary opponent at the same level as him, he only needed to unleash his constellation to crush them. It was just that it wasn't enough to fight against Zi Daoyang. But this Zi Daoyang actually wanted to compete against him in terms of constellation? That was undoubtedly courting his own humiliation. Light flashed as the 4 great constellations appeared. Numerous gigantic ancient demons appeared, howling madly as they stared at Zi Daoyang's silhouette. At the same time, towering sword might gushed forth, wanting to annihilate everything as it slashed toward Zi Daoyang. Zi Daoyang's countenance stiffened. He circulated the Thousand Autumns Emperor art to its limits, causing a screen of light to connect to the skies, blotting out the sun. The sword might slammed into the screen unceasingly, causing boundless ripples to form. Your Thousand Autumns Emperor art should be able to break through like the heavenly mystic mirror art, right? I wonder how strong of an attack it can withstand. A majestic aura gushed forth from Qin Wentian's body as rumbling sounds echoed out. Numerous gigantic ancient bells erupted forth from Qin Wentian's body, floating in the air. These ancient bells radiated boundless golden might as they blasted out, akin to boundless lightning bolts blasting toward Zi Daoyang. Each and every one of his innate techniques is actually so powerful. The spectators were all stunned by the power of Qin Wentian's attacks. This man was too terrifying. The might of those ancient bells seemed to be able to suppress everything. Qin Wentian had cultivated the 10,000 laws record before. Any innate technique he used could be cultivated to the extreme. In addition to the baptism of the sacred luminance, his body was filled with boundless energy. In addition to the spirit refinement method, as well as his fian celestial-like physique, each and every one of his attacks were all extremely powerful, let alone innate techniques. Zi Daoyang unleashed the Thousand Autumns Emperor art to the extreme. Boundless golden lightning slammed into the light inscriptions, and at the same time, numerous gigantic demonic beasts trampled down, launching violent attacks. Zi Daoyang wielded a gigantic violet sword that contained boundless might. However, Qin Wentian merely snorted and stepped out. Rumbling sounds rang out from his body as the silhouettes of golden rocks manifested. Qin Wentian appeared in the air above Zi Daoyang and stabbed out with his finger. Numerous terrifying wind rocks tore through everything as they shot towards Zi Daoyang. All sorts of attacks blasted out at the same time, causing the sky to change color. The hearts of the spectators were all filled with trepidation. Even Shaolin Yue's countenance paled. She could faintly sense that the situation was far from good. This Qin Wentian was simply too powerful. Even when facing Zi Daoyang, he wasn't at a disadvantage at all. Zi Daoyang's violet sword slashed out, shattering the golden rock. However, his violet sword also broke apart inch by inch. Qin Wentian's silhouette descended as a gigantic palm imprint blasted out, not giving Zi Daoyang any chance to catch his breath. The demonic beasts continued to attack, wanting to tear Zi Daoyang apart. Boom! Amidst the violet light, a fearsome black-colored light gushed forth as a fearsome might gushed forth, shaking the heavens and earth. What a terrifying aura! That's the inheritance power of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Zi Daoyang already has the inheritance of 2 great emperors. He's definitely extraordinary. Numerous violet-black arms manifested from Zi Daoyang's body, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. These arms blasted out at the same time, causing the sky to change color as a black vortex appeared, engulfing everything. The demonic beasts howled as they were grabbed by the terrifying arms, sucked into the vortex. Do you think you can do anything to me like this? At this moment, Zi Daoyang was incomparably enraged. He was the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, the strongest genius in the City of Ancient Emperors. Yet in this battle, He was actually being suppressed and was at a disadvantage. How could he not be enraged? When Qin Wenyin first entered the city of ancient emperors, he was still a 7th-level ascendant. His pride, his dignity, had been trampled on in this battle. He wouldn't allow himself to be defeated. I really don't know where your confidence comes from. You are like a stray dog, completely suppressed, yet you still dare to flaunt your might? Qin Wenyin roared. He stretched out his palms as an even more terrifying tempest manifested in his palms. Rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly as boundless might surged within his body. God's hand appeared, causing him to resemble a world-shaking god of war. You only have 2 parts of the inheritance. How can you stand against the god's hand? Qin Wenyin roared. God's hand manifesting a platinum-long spear that pierced out. One of Zi Daoyang's black arms didn't have enough time to dodge and was directly struck. With a thunderous boom, destructive runic light shook the heavens and earth, shattering the black arms as the vortex dissipated. You said that even if I'm at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, I'm still not your opponent? Let me enlighten you. I'm at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon. You can't afford to antagonize me. Qin Wenyan's long spear slashed out once more, launching consecutive attacks. Rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly as Zi Daoyang's black arms were destroyed one after another. How could a mere 2 parts of the inheritance stand against the god's hand? Chapter 980. How tyrannical! The spectators felt their hearts trembling as they watched this battle. Qin Wenyin was simply too tyrannical, even though his opponent was the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang. Zi Daoyang said that even if Qin Wenyin broke through to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, he wouldn't be his match. Qin Wenyin tyrannically replied, saying that Zi Daoyang couldn't afford to antagonize a 9th level ascendant like him. How tyrannical was this? Those from the Violet sect all had solemn expressions on their faces as they stared fixedly at this battle. Was the undefeatable legend of the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings about to be destroyed? The geniuses in the surroundings all had incomparably sharp expressions on their faces. Their eyes didn't even blink as they stared fixedly at the battle. This was a battle at the peak of the city of ancient emperors. After this battle, would the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings have a new owner? Too powerful. Qin Wenyin has already cultivated ancient Emperor Yi's secret art, God's hand, to the acme of perfection. That long spear seems to be formed from a combination of countless runic inscriptions. That seemingly simple strike is actually a terrifying runic formation, containing a heaven-shaking might. Zi Daoyang's inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor is already powerful enough, but when faced with God's hand, he can only be suppressed. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Zi Daoyang's energy was unceasingly shattered. The ancient bell floating above his head continued to attack unceasingly, and the demonic beasts were still going berserk. Even his Thousand Autumns Emperor art had no way to withstand such a frenzied attack. The runic inscriptions were instantly shattered, not giving him any chance to catch his breath. Scram! Zi Daoyang roared in rage. His violet body seemed to fuse with Zi Daoyang's body, transforming into a violet immortal that could annihilate everything. Rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. Qin Wenyan's aura grew stronger once more. His body expanded once more as his long spear expanded. Yet another world-shaking spear strike, capable of annihilating everything, directly piercing into the violet immortal's body. A thunderous boom rang out. No matter what kind of power the violet immortal had, it was unable to block Qin Wenyan's attack. Zi Daoyang, is that all your strength? Qin Wenyan's entire body radiated a heaven-shaking divine glow, cascading downwards. He was like an invincible god of war, capable of destroying everything. The number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang, was humiliated to the point where he only had this little bit of strength. Another beam of intense light flashed as Qin Wenyan activated his battle art. At this moment, other than Zi Daoyang, no one knew how terrifying Qin Wenyan was. An overwhelming aura gushed forth from his body, akin to that of an immortal. His skin, bones, flesh, and blood all contained boundless energy. At this instant, all of that energy was channeled into this world-shaking spear strike, piercing toward Zi Daoyang's body. The long spear directly penetrated through the screen of light, piercing into Zi Daoyang's body. Zi Daoyang roared in rage as a violet shield appeared around him. However, the instant it came into contact with the long spear, the shield was instantly destroyed. Zi Daoyang no longer had the strength to block the spear. Is Zi Daoyang going to be defeated? To think that Qin Wentian's strength has actually reached such a tyrannical level. The hearts of the spectators trembled. This heaven-shaking attack finally landed, slamming into Zi Daoyang's body. A piercing sound rang out as the violet shield around Zi Daoyang was completely shattered. He coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood as his body was flung through the air, blasting towards the experts of the Violet sect. His speed of retreat was so fast that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The experts of the Violet sect joined hands to catch his body. Zi Daoyang's countenance was pale as he coughed out blood unceasingly. His robes were torn apart by that attack, revealing a thin layer of violet robes. There weren't any signs of damage at all. Under the might of that spear strike, there wasn't even a single hole in it. At this moment, the violet robes were shimmering with dazzling runic light, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. An immortal ranked weapon. It's an extremely powerful defensive immortal ranked weapon. Although it can't completely block the attack, it's very likely that the majority of Qin Wentian's power was dissipated. But even so, Zi Daoyang was still heavily injured and almost killed. Zidi's immortal sense has finally appeared. At this moment, the crowd was shocked. A supreme silhouette appeared, exuding a terrifying might. But at the instant he appeared, the law energy in the air descended from the sky, directly enveloping him. Impudent! Zidi inclined his head and roared. He lifted his palms and attacked, actually wanting to resist the law energy of the city of ancient emperors. However, that supreme law energy contained a heaven-shaking might that instantly enveloped his immortal sense. Tens of thousands of beams of tribulation light shot down, slamming into the immortal sense. Zidi roared in rage, but his immortal sense was still destroyed, vanishing without a trace. His immortal sense was destroyed. How terrifying! The crowd sighed in admiration. Zidi's immortal sense had even appeared. If he didn't have that immortal ranked robe, Zi Daoyang would have already died from that strike. Zi Daoyang has been defeated in this battle. The number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang, was defeated by Qin Wentian. At this instant, countless thoughts flashed through the minds of the countless geniuses in the surroundings. Everyone felt their hearts trembling. In this battle, Qin Wentian wasn't at a disadvantage at all. In fact, he had always held the initiative. Zi Daoyang wasn't a match for Qin Wentian. Just like Qin Wentian's arrogant words, Zi Daoyang couldn't afford to antagonize a 9th-level ascendant like him. Qin Wentian had used his strength to prove his words. Zi Daoyang couldn't afford to antagonize him. In this battle, Qin Wentian had domineeringly proven himself. Before this, he had been on the passive side and was hunted down by others. Without exception, it was all because his cultivation base was too low. Now that his cultivation base had risen, even the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings was defeated by him. Who else could contend against him? After this battle, the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings had changed hands. Qin Wentian. Everyone stared ahead, staring at that supreme silhouette. The city of ancient emperors would forever remember this name. The geniuses from all over the immortal realms had entered the city of ancient emperors to temper themselves. Being able to rank number 1 in the Immortal Ascension rankings was a sign of true talent. Those from the Violet sect all had complicated expressions on their faces. They had always felt pride in joining the Violet sect because of the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. The Violet sect was established by Zi Daoyang. In the city of ancient emperors, Zi Daoyang was an undefeatable legend. But now, this legend had been shattered by someone who had just entered the city of ancient emperors. Xiao Lingyue couldn't accept this scene. Her body trembled as an expression of disbelief appeared on her face when she stared at the injured Zi Daoyang. How could this be? How could this be? Qin Wenyan had actually defeated her elder brother Daoyang? In that case, everything that had happened earlier was nothing but a mockery. Only those from the Qin sect had expressions of excitement on their faces. Their eyes shone with a bright light, filled with pride for participating in this battle. Qin Wenyan didn't disappoint them. Number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings? Jun Mingchen mocked. Zi Daoyang, before this, you were merely bullying us because our cultivation bases were lower. Your talent as the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings is only SOSO. As for that woman beside you, she's even more ridiculous. She kept calling you Daoyang Gij, but did she really think that you were unrivaled under the heavens? Zi Daoyang was speechless, and so was Xiao Lingyue. If Zi Daoyang was victorious, the only thing left for Qin Wenyan would be disdain and humiliation. But since Qin Wenyan was the victor, Zi Daoyang had fallen from his pedestal. His radiance was no longer as radiant as before, and he even had to bear the mocking gazes of many. Zi Daoyang coughed and tossed a medicinal pill into his mouth. He inclined his head and stared at Qin Wenyan as a terrifying coldness flickered in his eyes. There's no need to look at me like that. All this humiliation was brought upon by you. Qin Wenyan stared at Zi Daoyang's cold eyes as he calmly continued, before this, how arrogant were you? I still remember the first time you appeared before me. How lofty, unexcelled in the world. You were the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, and your arrogance was boundlessly boundless, capable of looking down on everyone. But at that time, you should have already realized how miserable your fall would be when you were defeated. Your arrogance and loftiness were all because of your unrivaled strength in the city of ancient emperors. But now, that halo has been stripped away by me. Before me, what do you, Zi Daoyang, count for? Qin Wentian's voice directly pierced into Zi Daoyang's heart. He stepped out, his voice reverberating through the heavens and earth. What did Zi Daoyang count for? He had been defeated. In front of Qin Wenyan, his earlier arrogance was nothing but a joke. Unless he could defeat Qin Wenyan again in the future, washing away this humiliation. As for his identity as Zidi's son, if he used it to suppress others after his defeat, he would become the laughingstock of all the geniuses in the city of ancient emperors. Status would bestow you many benefits, but if your strength was insufficient and you still had to use your father's name to suppress others, that would truly be a humiliation. True geniuses would never stoop so low. Boom. Qin Wenyan stepped out once more, causing the air to tremble. Xiao Lingyue's countenance turned cold as she asked, "What are you planning to do?" The battle hasn't ended yet. Qin Wenyan brandished his long spear as his countenance turned cold. His long spear erupted forth, transforming into a length of 100 meters, capable of annihilating everything as it pierced toward Zi Daoyang's head. The members of the Violet sect all retreated. Although they were followers of Zi Daoyang, this was Zi Daoyang's battle. Since he had lost, everything should be settled by himself. A talisman appeared in Zi Daoyang's hand, shining with boundless runic light. With a wave of his hand, the runic light enveloped his body as he icily spoke. Qin Wenyan, I will definitely return the humiliation I suffered today tenfold in the future. As the sound of his voice faded, a beam of violet light shot up into the sky as Zi Daoyang's silhouette vanished from sight. As the son of Zidi, Zi Daoyang would definitely have many treasures on him. Qin Wenyan was also very clear on this point. He wasn't surprised when he saw Zi Daoyang vanishing. It wasn't an easy matter to kill someone with such an identity. Chapter 981. In this battle, Zi Daoyang fled in defeat. The number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings was about to change hands. After this battle, Qin Wentian's name would reach a new peak, like the sun in the sky. Zi Daoyang's departure caused the people of the Violet sect to feel as though they had lost all face. The strongest genius they had followed in the city of ancient emperors had fallen from his divine pedestal. Everyone understood that from today onwards, the Violet sect would no longer exist. In fact, Zi Daoyang didn't even bring Xiao Lingyue away. Qin Wendian stood arrogantly in the air. He stared at Zi Daoyang's vanishing figure before turning his gaze onto Xiao Lingyue. With just a single glance, his incomparably sharp gaze caused Xiao Lingyue to feel a chill run down her spine. She instantly tensed up. If Qin Wendian wanted to kill her now, it would be extremely easy. Given the strength that Qin Wendian had used to defeat Zi Daoyang, she had no way to resist him. Qin Wendian's lips curled up in a cold smile as he stared at Xiao Lingyue with a mocking gaze. Seems like you, Xiao Lingyue, have no place in Zi Daoyang's heart at all. How sad. Xiao Lingyue's countenance turned pale, but she had no way to refute. Jun Mingchen and the others stepped forward, only to see Jun Mingchen pointing at Xiao Lingyue. This slut has always wanted nothing more than to take our lives. Before this, she joined the Twin Stars Alliance, and now she's following Zi Daoyang. I'll go kill her. It was unknown whether it was because of fear or humiliation, but Xiao Lingyue's countenance was as pale as paper. Don't worry, I won't bully you. If you can defeat me, I can guarantee that you can leave here alive. After speaking, Jun Mingchen stepped out, his countenance cold. Although this woman was beautiful, her heart was as venomous as snakes and scorpions. Initially, he didn't have any grudges with her, but she had always wanted to kill them. Since this was the case, there was no need for him to be polite with her. Scram out! Jun Mingchen roared. Xiao Lingyue's body trembled as she walked out. Frost radiated from her, freezing everything. However, Jun Mingchen was clad in his emperor armor, exuding an unexcelled aura. The clear sky worldly diagram shone from him, and his entire body radiated boundless light, resembling a king among kings. He took a step forward, and heaven and earth rumbled. His power was monstrous. Xiao Lingyue unleashed her constellation, sealing the heavens and earth in ice. Jun Mingchen stepped out step by step, each of his steps causing the heavens and earth to tremble, containing a supreme might within. Finally, he punched out with a fist that shook the heavens and earth. A supreme might erupted forth from his fist. This power seemed invincible, as though it originated from the primordial era. It transformed into a chaotic torrent of energy that engulfed the heavens as it shot towards Xiao Lingyue. Xiao Lingyue's black hair fluttered in the wind, her countenance was filled with a sense of poignancy. She was forced into a dead end and could only unleash the grand freezing extermination art. However, in the face of Jun Mingchen's fist light that seemed capable of destroying everything, the freezing energy was directly destroyed. Jun Mingchen wasn't polite at all. He stepped out once more, stomping on the air as he punched out with both fists, unleashing the King Dao killing fist that contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. The space trembled as Xiao Lingyue unleashed all her might. But under that tyrannical attack, all her defenses were broken apart. With a thunderous boom, her body was blasted away, slamming heavily onto the ground as she coughed out a mouthful of blood, her countenance as pale as paper. Boom! Jun Mingchen was like an emperor descending from the skies above her. He stared down at Xiao Lingyue as he spoke. Is this your pride? Is this the capital you are so proud of? Xiao Lingyue coughed out another mouthful of blood, resembling a withered flower. Or could it be that you have always treated your beauty as your capital? Jun Mingchen's eyes flashed with disdain. The armor on his body gradually dissipated as his aura dissipated. A look of pity could be seen on his face as he glanced at Xiao Lingyue, feeling pity for her. Pitiful woman, I disdain to kill you. Jun Mingchen waved his hand as he stepped back, facing Qin Wendian. Senior brother, what do you think? Since you disdain to kill her, forget it then. She's insignificant, I'm just feeling pity for her. Qin Wendian casually spoke, his tone was as calm as ever. Yet his words caused Xiao Lingyue to feel a boundless sadness as her body trembled. At this moment, Xiao Lingyue felt as though she had been abandoned by the entire world, becoming a pitiful person in the eyes of everyone. Once upon a time, she, Xiao Lingyue, was radiant with boundless radiance. Countless geniuses in the city of ancient emperors followed her, like the moon surrounded by the stars. Once upon a time she, Xiao Lingyue, could make so many geniuses fight for her, putting their lives on the line for her. Once upon a time, she, Xiao Lingyue, exuded magnificence throughout the generations, ranked number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. She was also a supreme beauty, with so many men prostrating themselves before her. All of this seemed to be nothing but a dream. But now, everything was destroyed. Because of Qin Wentian's appearance, all her illusions were shattered. In this vast land, there was only boundless sadness. Inclining her head, Xiao Lingyue stared at the darkened sky. The tribulation might was still present, and a smile abruptly appeared in her eyes. However, this smile was filled with sorrow. She only had herself to blame for all of this. She believed that others should worship her like the moon surrounded by the stars. She believed that others should give the best to her. She believed that she had both beauty and strength, and that she should have countless followers. But all of this would eventually be destroyed. Standing up, Xiao Lingyue dragged her injured body as she walked towards the horizons alone, bringing with her a lonely back view. Li Yu stared at Xiao Lingyue's lonely back view, speechless in his heart. He could only sigh, hoping that after experiencing all of this, she would be able to change herself. Brother Qin, congratulations. After this battle, the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings will surely be yours. This is the glory of our Qin sect. Brother Qin defeated Zi Daoyang. In the entire city of ancient emperors, no one else would be able to contend against Brother Qin. This battle could be said to be the pinnacle battle in the city of ancient emperors. The members of the Qin sect spoke one after another. The majority of them were filled with admiration and had no intention of flattering Qin Wenyan. After such a glorious battle, Qin Wenyan was indeed worthy of pride. Qin Wenyan shook his head. The current Mo-Xie is definitely not weaker than Zi Daoyang. Strange expressions appeared on the faces of the crowd. Qin Wenyan actually didn't feel the slightest bit of arrogance. At this moment, he still felt that the threat Mo-Xie posed was greater compared to Zi Daoyang. Mo-Xie is ranked number 2 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. No matter how strong he is, he shouldn't be stronger than Zi Daoyang, right? Mo-Xie also obtained a miraculous encounter in the Antiquity City. Originally, he wasn't any weaker than Zi Daoyang, and their strength was roughly the same. Now, he can only be stronger. Qin Wentian spoke. After Mo-Xie experienced the baptism of the sacred luminance, his potential was unlocked once more. Before this, he had already forged an indestructible physique. Now, the strength of Mo-Xie's body might not be inferior to his. Hence, although Qin Wentian had defeated Zi Daoyang, he didn't feel that he had no opponents. He felt that Mo-Xie's current strength was even stronger than Zi Daoyang's. In that case, Zi Daoyang can only be ranked number 3 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, someone spoke. Today, the people of the Dongshengshan Gate also invited Mo-Xie to the Evil Palace. However, Mo-Xie didn't appear. I wonder if he's paying attention to the battle here. That must be the case. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Back then in the underworld mountains, Mo-Xie had waited until he and the Violet sect were both heavily injured before he appeared. Zi Daoyang was incomparably arrogant, but he wasn't a scheming person. He was merely arrogant, believing himself to be unrivaled under the heavens. However, Mo-Xie was even more sinister and ruthless. His methods were extremely ruthless, and he was even more dangerous compared to Zi Daoyang. Mo-Xie, if you want a battle, just inform me at any time. Qin Wenyan stared at the air as he roared, issuing the challenge. He knew that Mo-Xie would definitely hear it, even if he wasn't here. Everyone stared at Qin Wenyan. It seemed like Qin Wenyan wouldn't rest until he turned the heavens and earth upside down. Brothers of the Qin sect, thank you for your help in this battle. Let's return. Qin Wentian spoke in a clear voice. After which, everyone departed. The spectating geniuses also stepped aside, sending Qin Wentian off with their gazes. This was a supreme character. Just this battle alone was enough to make the entire city of ancient emperors remember his name. Only after Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished did the spectators leave. This battle shook the entire city of ancient emperors. Everyone started to pay attention to the changes in the Immortal Ascension rankings. And indeed, the crowd didn't have to wait for too long. The new rankings were out, and there were shocking changes in the top 10 rankings. Number 1 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Qin Wenyan. Number 2 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Mo Xie. Number 3 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang. Number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Nam Huang Yunxi. Number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xin Yu. Number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Jun Mengchen. Number 7 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Qin Wentian's demonic beast companion, Little Rascal. Number 8 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Hua Taishu. Number 9 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Yang. Number 10 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Qin Wentian's demonic beast companion, the Purgatory Vermilion Bird. Number 11 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Qingxian. The moment the rankings were out, the entire city of ancient emperors was in an uproar. Other than Qin Wendian officially ascending to the top of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang's name was no longer in second place. It was Mo Xie instead. Because Qin Wendian had defeated Zi Daoyang head-on, he was ranked above Mo Xie, ascending to the top. And now, among the top 11, other than Mo Xie, Zi Daoyang, and Xian Yang, the other names were actually all Qin Wentian's friends and demonic beast companions. One could very well imagine how shocking this news was. Before this, because Qin Wentian's radiance was too radiant, he had blocked the radiance of the others. But those who had personally witnessed the battle between the Qin sect and the Dongshengshan Gate all knew that the strength of Qin Wentian's companions was also shockingly powerful. This ranking wasn't an exaggeration. Within the Qin sect, the various experts all headed to the depths of the underworld mountains, searching for the antiquity city that Qin Wenyan spoke of. When they saw the rankings, they simply couldn't control the pounding of their hearts. Chapter 982. Huge waves of commotion arose in the city of ancient emperors because of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Qin Wenyan had led the Qin sect to annihilate the disciples of the Dongshengshan Gate, and then defeated Zi Daoyang, ascending to the top. This was already shocking enough. Next, when the Immortal Ascension rankings appeared, other than 3 people, the rest were all disciples of the Qin sect. They were all friends of Qin Wenyan, as well as demonic beasts. Such a ranking was too crazy, so crazy that it was hard to believe it was real. Without a doubt, the Qin sect had already become the number 1 sect in the city of ancient emperors. No one could shake their position. Most probably, just the 8 of them alone were enough to sweep through countless powers. Many people had personally witnessed Qin Wentian's strength. Ordinary geniuses in the city of ancient emperors wouldn't even be able to withstand a single strike from him. Even an existence like Shaolin Yue wouldn't be able to withstand a single spear strike from Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan told the people of the city of ancient emperors what it meant to be a legend. A piece of news began to circulate throughout the city of ancient emperors. The reason why Qin Wenyan and the others could rise so quickly was because they had entered an antiquity city in the underworld mountains and obtained a miraculous encounter there. Not only that, Mo Xie had also entered the antiquity city. Hence, they were ranked number 2, higher than Zi Daoyang. However, according to Qin Wenyan and Nam Huang Yunxi, the antiquity city had expelled them because their cultivation bases were too low. Not only that, the ancient city was also sealed. The disciples of the Qin sect all headed to the underworld mountains to search, and so did the countless geniuses in the city of ancient emperors. However, all of this had nothing to do with Qin Wenyan, Zi Daoyang, and the others. The night in the city of ancient emperors was extremely cold and desolate to Zi Daoyang. In the Violet sect, numerous majestic buildings could be seen. This place was once known as the number 1 sect in the city of ancient emperors, and everyone who stood outside would feel reverence in their hearts when they looked at the Violet sect. But now, the Violet sect was completely empty, as though it had long been deserted. Because of Zi Daoyang's defeat, as well as his abandonment of Shaolin Yue, the Violet sect's morale was shattered. The experts of the Violet sect all fled to the ends of the earth. In the silent night, Zi Daoyang sat cross-legged with his eyes closed in meditation. He circulated the energy in his body, gradually recovering from his injuries. Although that heaven-shaking spear strike from Qin Wenyan had been blocked by an immortal-ranked weapon, the impact had still penetrated into his internal organs, heavily injuring him. He needed a period of time to recuperate. Violet light towered up into the sky, enveloping his body. Zi Daoyang was completely immersed in his cultivation. At this moment, in the violet sect, under the moonlight, there seemed to be a black silhouette quietly floating in the air. This sound didn't make the slightest movement. His entire body was wrapped in a loose black robe. This black robe was extremely large, it completely covered his entire body. It was pitch black, nothing could be seen. Furthermore, this silhouette didn't release any qi, this black robe seemed to have covered his blood qi. The black-robed silhouette floated silently in the air, hovering an inch above the ground. He then continued floating forward, resembling a specter of the night. Even if someone stood right in front of him, it would be extremely difficult for them to sense his existence. The direction this black silhouette was moving in was none other than Zi Daoyang's cultivation ground. Because he didn't release any aura, Zi Daoyang didn't sense it at all. He was still cultivating. The aura in his body rumbled unceasingly as violet light illuminated the sky. But even so, the senses of powerful stellar martial cultivators were extremely sharp. If they sensed an aura stealthily approaching them, they would easily sense it. This was especially so for an expert like Zi Daoyang. But this time around, Zi Daoyang didn't sense it at all. That black silhouette got closer and closer, fusing as one with the darkness of the night, as though he didn't exist at all. His silhouette had already floated to the outside of Zi Daoyang's cultivation ground, separated by only a wall. At this moment, a voice drifted out from the training ground. Zi Daoyang retracted his aura as his eyes abruptly opened. His incomparably sharp senses made him feel that something was amiss, as though there was a sense of danger approaching. A wisp of Zi Daoyang's aura gushed forth as a violet light swept out. In an instant, a formless fluctuation of his will, invisible to the naked eye, instantly engulfed the entire violet sect. Emptiness, there was nothing there. The fluctuation of his will directly penetrated through the black robe outside the entrance. If it was a corporeal body, it would have directly penetrated through the black robe. That black robe was the darkness of the night, and there was no one beneath it. There was only nothingness. Zi Daoyang sighed. He didn't expect that after his defeat today, he would become so paranoid. When his will swept out, there was nothing at all. Inclining his head, Zi Daoyang stared up at the sky before closing his eyes and continuing his cultivation. Outside, the black robe quietly floated there, unmoving, completely fusing with the darkness of the night. This pause lasted for a very long time. Such endurance was truly shocking. In the cultivation ground, Zi Daoyang's body was enveloped by the violet light as he wholeheartedly focused on his cultivation. That black robe finally fluttered again, passing through the obstruction of the wall and directly facing Zi Daoyang. Not only that, the distance between the black robe and Zi Daoyang was less than 100 meters. Bzz. A dazzling beam of light abruptly erupted forth as a towering violet light gushed forth from Zi Daoyang's body. At the same instant, a saber abruptly appeared from within the black robe. This saber was like a bolt of lightning amidst the darkness, slashing out. It was too fast, so fast that it caused people to feel stifled. At such a close distance, there was no way to counter this saber. Time seemed to slow down at this moment. Zi Daoyang's eyes flickered with astonishment. It was actually real, that feeling was actually real. However, his will didn't sense the existence of any aura. Even now, the black robe before him was still completely empty, yet a devil saber had appeared from within. The cruel saber of darkness directly slashed down, slicing Zi Daoyang's neck. Fresh blood splattered as terror and despair flickered in Zi Daoyang's eyes. He, Zi Daoyang, was the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, an invincible existence in the city of ancient emperors. Yet, he was actually being hunted here? That devil saber shone with a terrifying black light, blasting into Zi Daoyang's body, destroying everything within. His neck was about to be severed, but it seemed as though his opponent still wanted him to have a single breath of life left. The black robe flew backwards, hovering in the air as a black-clad silhouette walked out. This was a familiar silhouette. His eyes were so cold, so ruthless and emotionless. Pooh! Zi Daoyang wanted to speak, yet he coughed out blood unceasingly. His neck was also bleeding unceasingly, and at this moment his head was tilted to the side. How could he still speak? The black-clad silhouette stretched out a gigantic hand, directly pressing it onto Zi Daoyang's head. A terrifying runic light circulated, and in an instant, numerous black runes appeared in Zi Daoyang's body, flowing unceasingly into that gigantic palm. That pair of eyes calmly stared at Zi Daoyang, so calm that Zi Daoyang felt fear and despair. Even now, he still didn't dare to believe that he was going to die. He was going to die in the city of ancient emperors. He was Zi Daoyang, the son of Zidi, the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. But now, he was going to be killed in such a cruel manner. Zi Daoyang was going to die. From the start till the end, the black-clad silhouette didn't say a single word. He didn't give Zi Daoyang any chance at all. Finally, when Zi Daoyang was lying on the ground, the black-clad silhouette collected everything from Zi Daoyang's body. The black robe floated back, enveloping Zi Daoyang's body. An instant later, the black-clad silhouette floated in the air, and abruptly, a terrifying attack energy gushed forth from the black robe, blasting towards Zi Daoyang's corpse. Accompanied by a thunderous boom, the black robe drifted away into the distance. In the Qin sect, Qin Wenyin was also cultivating. He was in his own cultivation ground, and had used a formation to seal it off. In this sealed space, a treasured cauldron sat there, but Qin Wentian's silhouette was nowhere to be seen. Right now, Qin Wenyin was inside the treasured cauldron. Within the cauldron, rays of the sacred luminance cascaded downwards unceasingly. Qin Wenyin stood with his hands clasped behind his back, bathing in the sacred luminance. He had already experienced the tempering of the sacred luminance, and the effects of the sacred luminance weren't as great as before. Right now, the main reason why he was cultivating in the cauldron was because he wanted to comprehend the innate techniques and treasured arts within. Boundless runes were inscribed within the cauldron. Qin Wenyin seriously observed them, trying to comprehend the power within. How many innate techniques and treasured arts are there exactly? Qin Wentian's eyes were like lightning, staring at the boundless runes. They were profound and complicated, incomparably tyrannical. Within these complicated runes, a terrifying baleful aura could be faintly felt. This treasured cauldron was akin to an ancient ominous cauldron, and the countless runes inscribed on it caused Qin Wenyan to feel as though he was looking at a terrifying greater demon. Qin Wenyan closed his eyes and calmed his mind. The runes of the treasured cauldron were imprinted into his sea of consciousness. He was in the world of the treasured cauldron, and all the runes revolved around him. Dragon! At this moment, Qin Wenyan could faintly see a great demon true dragon proudly laughing at the 9 heavens. It roared above the 9 heavens, shattering the dome of the sky with a single strike. Divine turtle, it's the black tortoise. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed again, and it was as though he saw an incomparably huge divine turtle spiraling in the sky, unbreakable by all techniques. Rock! Qin Wenyan seemed to have seen a great rock soaring above the 9 heavens. It was the sovereign of the sky, with a wingspan of 90,000 miles, and its speed was unparalleled. Who could compare to it? Chapter 983. Within the cauldron, Qin Wenyan closed his eyes and comprehended. He discovered that the countless runes were all powerful innate techniques and treasured arts. Without a doubt, these were all immortal arts. Other than the true dragon, the sovereign of the sky, the great rock, and the black tortoise, Qin Wenyan also saw other ancient demon runes that transformed into shocking scenes. The vermilion bird was covered in scarlet feathers, spitting out flames that could refine the heavens. With a single strike, its cry shook the heavens and earth. The divine elephant transformed into a supreme demonic beast, able to trample the heavens with a single stomp. The Qilin battled the heavens, a god of slaughter with a supreme grace, a supreme demon king. The roar of the true Ho caused the entire space to tremble, containing an apocalyptic might. Primal chaos surged, time and space became illusory. He opened his mouth and swallowed. The boundless territory, heaven and earth, the void, everything was swallowed into his mouth, possessing unmatched might. Demonic dragon, great rock, black tortoise, divine elephant, vermilion bird, Qilin, true Ho, primordial chaos. Within the cauldron, Qin Wenyan saw the 8 greater demons of the supreme ancient immortal realms. All of them had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Boundless runes transformed into immortal arts that contained boundless might. Right now, Qin Wenyan could only see these scenes. He had no way to comprehend even a fraction of them. Maybe when he reached the immortal emperor realm, he would be able to comprehend the boundless might and unleash demonic arts that shook the heavens and earth. The sky was the king. Qin Wenyan entered a state of deep comprehension. Although his current cultivation base was limited, this supreme demonic art still stirred his heart. The treasured cauldron was an ancient treasure, and as long as he could comprehend a trace of its power, he would still be able to unleash terrifying might. It was the same as when he cultivated some supreme immortal arts at his current cultivation base. He would only be able to comprehend the slightest bit of them. Qin Wenyan immersed himself in his cultivation, unaware of the flow of time. There was a formation in the outside world, so no one could disturb him. After all, the secret of the sacred luminance was contained within the treasured cauldron. He had to proceed with caution. In the city of ancient emperors, the commotion caused by the changes in the immortal ascension rankings was still fermenting. However, on the second morning, another piece of news that struck like a bolt from the blue shook the entire city of ancient emperors, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble as they felt a chill running down their spines. At this moment, countless experts were gathered in the Violet sect. All of them were geniuses from all directions in the city of ancient emperors. Their gazes were fixed on the ground below, where a headless corpse could be seen. Traces of blood could be seen on the ground. This corpse was none other than Zi Daoyang's. The news was true. Zi Daoyang had died, killed in the city of ancient emperors. After he was defeated by Qin Wenyan, he fell from the top of the immortal ascension rankings. And now he died here. This was Zi Daoyang, the former #1 ranker of the immortal ascension rankings, the son of Zidi. Yet, he actually died in the city of ancient emperors and died in such a miserable manner. His head exploded, and even his bones weren't preserved properly. No one rejoiced, they only felt their bodies turning cold. Who was the one who killed Zi Daoyang? For a moment, the same question appeared in everyone's mind. Who would kill Zi Daoyang? Who had the ability to kill Zi Daoyang? Who dared to kill Zi Daoyang? Was it Qin Wenyan? Someone asked. Qin Wenyan defeated Zi Daoyang head-on, and Zidi's immortal sense was destroyed by the law energy of the city of ancient emperors. In addition, Zi Daoyang was heavily injured and had to rely on a treasure to escape. If Qin Wenyan chased him all the way to the Violet sect, could it be that he was the one who killed Zi Daoyang? Back then, Qin Wenyan dared to kill Xian Xing. He also dared to kill Zi Daoyang. His demonic beast companion just so happened to need Zi Daoyang's Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance. There's a high possibility that he was the one who killed Zi Daoyang. Everyone speculated. Qin Wenyan was the most suspicious. There's also a possibility that it was Mo Xie. Mo Xie has always been incomparably ruthless and is an extremely dangerous character. He also obtained the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. That day when Qin Wenyan fought against Zi Daoyang, Mo Xie didn't show himself. It's very possible that he was the one who ambushed Zi Daoyang, someone else added. Right now on the Immortal Ascension rankings, only Qin Wenyan and Mo Xie were ranked above Zi Daoyang. Their strength was terrifying, and if there was someone who could kill Zi Daoyang, the two of them would undoubtedly be the greatest suspects. Also, only the two of them would have the guts to do so. After all, not everyone would dare to touch the son of Zidi. This news soon spread to the Qin sect, and the hearts of the members of the Qin sect trembled. They had never imagined that Zi Daoyang would be killed. After Qin Wendian defeated Zi Daoyang, he immediately went into closed-door seclusion. It was impossible for Qin Wendian to kill Zi Daoyang. There were people who suspected that Qin Wendian wouldn't admit to it even if he killed Zi Daoyang. After Qin Wendian ended his seclusion, he also learned of this news. Jun Mingchen and the others told him. Upon hearing that Zi Daoyang was killed, Qin Wendian's heart trembled. It should be done by Mo Xie. Are you so sure? Nam Huang Yunxi stared at Qin Wendian. Have you forgotten about the battle in the underworld mountains? Mo Xie was just waiting to reap the benefits of the fishermen. When the Qin sect fought against the Dongshangshan Gate, I challenged Mo Xie to a duel, but he didn't appear, nor did he express his stance. In addition to our strength, Mo Xie knew that it would be difficult for him to do anything. But Zi Daoyang is different. After that battle, Zidi's immortal sense vanished, and the hearts of the people in the Violet sect have already scattered. According to what you guys said, Zi Daoyang is the only one left in the Violet sect. If Mo Xie wants to seize the inheritance, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. That's right. Zi Daoyang was heavily injured by you. No matter which aspect he looks at, he's at an all-time low. If Mo Xie wants to seize the inheritance in the future, he will never have such a good opportunity again. If Mo Xie wants to seize the inheritance, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. Nam Huang Yunxi acknowledged Qin Wendian's words. Mo Xie was a ruthless character. He would definitely not give up the opportunity to seize Zi Daoyang's inheritance. If she was Mo Xie, she would also choose to act at that time. In that case, this Mo Xie is truly dangerous. Although Zi Daoyang was incomparably arrogant, he always fought us head-on every time, Jun Mingchen spoke. Qin Wendian's eyes flickered. Tell little rascal to be more careful. If Zi Daoyang was killed by Mo Xie, he would have already seized 3 of the 9 inheritances. I'm afraid he wouldn't let little rascal's inheritance go either. The speculations of the outside world persisted, but no one was able to confirm who killed Zi Daoyang. After that, those from the depths of the underworld mountains also returned, bringing with them disappointment. They found the antiquity city, but just like what Qin Wendian had said, they had no way to enter. The antiquity city had already closed, and they no longer had any chances to enter. Time flowed by, the commotion caused by Zi Daoyang's death gradually subsided. Qin Wendian and the others were still busy with their cultivation. Nam Huang Yunxi, Qin Er, and Jun Mingchen were also busy consolidating their cultivation bases. Now that they had already stepped into the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, it was time for them to make preparations to break through to Immortal Foundation. For stellar martial cultivators at this level, their goal was to break through to the immortal realm. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months passed. During these days, Qin Wendian was either consolidating his cultivation base, raising his strength in all aspects, or cultivating the supreme demonic arts and innate techniques in the treasured cauldron. The city of ancient emperors was no longer the same as when Qin Wendian rose up. It was like the time when Zi Daoyang ruled over the city of ancient emperors. The Qin sect's position as the number 1 sect was unshakable. Qin Wendian was ranked first in the Immortal Ascension rankings, and Mo Xie was ranked second in the Immortal Ascension rankings. In fact, 8 of the top 10 rankers were in the Qin sect. Their positions were as stable as Mount Tai, and it was impossible for them to fight against each other. Hence, even if someone's strength underwent a change, their ranking wouldn't change. The number 2 ranker, Mo Xie, seemed to have vanished without a trace. It had been a very long time since anyone had seen him. With regards to Qin Wendian's challenge, he also seemed to have turned a deaf ear to it. Even now, whether Zi Daoyang died in the hands of Qin Wendian or Mo Xie was still a matter of debate. The night was as still as water. In the air, a black-robed figure fluttered soundlessly. A beam of light shot out from the black robe, resembling the light of a constellation as it cascaded downwards, entering the Qin sect. Very swiftly, the beam of light vanished, and the black robe continued fluttering. Little Rascal was currently lying in a courtyard, and the commotion was very loud. His entire body circulated with a light of seizing power, as though he was also cultivating. Powerful runic light flowed around his body, but little rascal didn't seem to sense any danger approaching him. Because it was late at night, the majority of the Qin sect's disciples were still cultivating. Borrowing the darkness of the night, no one noticed the black robe drifting downwards. Not far away from little rascal, Purgatory seemed to have sensed something. His eyes opened as he stared at the sky. Abruptly, a towering light radiated from his body as he let out a long screech, instantly startling the entire Qin sect. However, at the same instant, a saber materialized from the black robe. It was a terrifying devil's saber made of darkness, directly cleaving downwards from the sky like a bolt of black lightning. Purgatory's sharp claws directly stomped on the ground. Instantly, runic light illuminated the skies as the entire space lit up with resplendent light. It was as though there was a grand formation that transformed into a screen of light that enveloped this entire space. This was inscribed by Qin Wenyan. After learning that Zi Daoyang had been killed, he had sensed the danger from Mo Xie and had always been on guard. Little rascal was already startled awake by the howl of Purgatory. His body instantly shrunk as he retreated. The terrifying devil saber slashed down on the light screen, but it only paused for an instant before it directly slashed apart the formation, slashing towards little rascal. A thunderous boom rang out as a fissure appeared on the ground. Because little rascal had shrunk and retreated, the saber light slashed right in front of him. Just a little more and the saber light would have slashed through his head. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Powerful auras gushed forth from the Qin sect. However, the black-robed man had already descended with his devil saber. He directly slashed out again, causing boundless darkness to envelop the space before him. A talisman appeared in little rascal's claws and he directly crushed it. Immortal light flashed as a fearsome golden barrier manifested before him, containing a fearsome defensive might. Qin Wenyan and the others had plundered and killed countless experts in the city of ancient emperors, obtaining countless interspatial rings. Right now, they had many treasures, and all of them had protective treasures on them. However, although these protective treasures were powerful, it was evidently insufficient. They couldn't withstand the might of the devil's saber and were directly cleaved apart. With a howl of rage, little rascal transformed into a golden-winged roc and retreated with lightning speed. Chapter 984. Everything happened in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. If Purgatory or Little Rascal's movements were just a little slower, the devil's saber would have already slashed into Little Rascal's body. But even so, Little Rascal was still in danger. The black-robed figure slashed out with his devil's saber once more, slicing the void into two. The golden-winged roc howled in rage as it soared up into the sky, moving so fast that it was like a phantom. At the same time, an immortal-ranked sword appeared in its talons as it slashed out frenziedly. Boom! The immortal-ranked sword was slashed apart, and the saber strike missed once more. At this moment, the experts of the Qin sect had already arrived. All of them took out their immortal-ranked weapons as their auras gushed forth, transforming into a terrifying tempest. Qin Wenyan's silhouette appeared. His aura towered up into the sky, and his eyes were cold to the extreme. The demon sword in his hand buzzed unceasingly, and abruptly, a long spear pierced through the air, aiming straight for the black-robed figure. That black-robed figure seemed to know that he was in a disadvantageous situation. He soared up into the air and slashed out with his saber once more. The terrifying tribulation light contained enough power to split apart the heavens and earth, and Qin Wenyan's spear had no way to block it. The black-robed figure sped up into the air, as though he still wanted to pursue Little Rascal. However, Little Rascal's speed was too fast, and the black-robed figure knew that Little Rascal was extremely dangerous. Mo Xie, there's no need to hide anymore. Qin Wenyan stepped out, slashing out with the demon sword in his hand. The experts of the Qin sect rushed over, sealing this entire space. They wanted to see if this black-robed figure was truly Mo Xie. How dangerous, he actually managed to sneak into the Qin sect. Not only that, he even had a terrifying stealth ability. That black robe on his body seemed to be able to conceal his aura, as though there was nothing but air around him. Zidong must have been killed by this person, the experts of the Qin sect mused as they stared at the black-robed figure. Was this person really Mo Xie? Didn't you want to fight against me? I'm here today to grant you your wish. A voice rang out from the black-robed figure. After which, the black-robed figure fluttered backwards, revealing a pair of hands. The eyes of the crowd instantly narrowed when they saw his face. Mo Xie. As expected, it's Mo Xie. He killed Zidaoyang. Mo Xie is too dangerous. Despicable. He actually dared to launch a sneak attack. Senior brother Qin, let's just kill him together. There's no need to fight such a person. Jun Mengchen and the rest all came out. Luckily, Qin Wenyan had long prepared for this. If not, little rascal would be in for a miserable time. Qin Wenyan, do you want to fight? Mo Xie had actually kept his devil saber as he stared at Qin Wenyan's silhouette. His dark golden eyes were filled with an incomparably deep coldness. The members of the Qin sect all turned their gazes onto Qin Wenyan, only to see Qin Wenyan coldly laughing. If you want to fight, I will accompany you. Brothers of the Qin sect, seal this place and don't let him escape. If he wants to fight, I will accompany him. All right. How gutsy. The geniuses of the Qin sect all cheered. Before this, Qin Wenyan had defeated Zidaoyang, but now, Mo Xie had killed Zidaoyang. The first and second rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings had to have a battle at the pinnacle to see who could truly laugh arrogantly at the city of ancient emperors. A violent might gushed forth from Mo Xie. His black robes were still wrapped around his body, making it impossible to see the runic light circulating around him. Qin Wenyan stepped out as the god's hand appeared. He didn't dare to underestimate Mo Xie. Back then, even Zidaoyang felt trepidation when facing the second ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Now, Mo Xie had obtained 3/9 of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, and had even established an indestructible golden body. Not only that, he had also undergone the baptism of the sacred luminance. Mo Xie's strength was definitely much stronger compared to Zidaoyang's. Bizizi. A fearsome aura erupted forth from Qin Wenyan. His body transformed into a series of afterimages as he dashed towards Mo Xie. Stretching out his palms, a terrifying star-seizing palm imprint blasted out, blotting out the sky as it contained a supreme suppressive might. Mo Xie inclined his head as his dark golden palms frenziedly attacked. A dark golden palm imprint containing tribulation runes of darkness blasted out. The two fearsome attacks collided in the air and exploded at the same time, shattering into pieces. Let me see how strong your god's hand is. Mo Xie's voice rang out as a towering devil might gushed forth from him. His eyes were terrifying to the extreme. Let me show you then. Qin Wenyan soared through the air, directly appearing before Mo Xie. Neither of them released their astral souls to amplify their strength. This time around, Qin Wenyan's god's hand directly blasted towards Mo Xie, engaging in a close-range attack. Mo Xie's palms also blasted out. His dark golden palms radiated a terrifying darkness devil tribulation might, revolving like an abyss. A terrifying vortex appeared in the center of his palms, drawing in all the energy in the surroundings. The entire space seemed to be on the verge of being destroyed by the might of his palms. What a terrifying palm! The hearts of the spectators trembled. The palms of the two of them collided, causing the heavens and earth to tremble as their blood and qi churned wildly. However, they stood there unmoving as their other palms blasted out once again. In just an instant, thunderous rumbling sounds shook the heavens and earth. A destructive light enveloped their bodies as their battle shook the heavens and earth. Every collision caused the spectators to feel their blood and qi churning wildly. Such close-range attacks were simply too terrifying. Mo Xie's palm seemed to contain a devouring energy when he attacks, able to devour sect leader Qin's attacks. Could it be that after he devoured Zidaoyang's attacks, He actually obtained a trace of Zi Daoyang's Thousand Autumns Emperor art? Someone exclaimed. If that's the case, Mo Xie's inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor has already begun to take form. The two of them fought unceasingly. What was shocking was that the more they fought, the more ferocious they became. Qin Wentian's bloodline started to erupt forth as he blasted out palm strikes filled with a terrifying suppressive might, capable of shattering everything. Mo Xie's tribulation might towered up into the sky as the energy in his body frenziedly gushed forth. Sect leader Qin is gradually gaining the upper hand. His strength seems to be slightly stronger, causing Mo Xie's body to tremble even more violently. Seems like sect leader Qin's perfect physique, God's hand, in addition to his bloodline power, his offensive prowess is slightly stronger compared to Mo Xie's indestructible golden body, Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, and his tribulation bloodline. Mo Xie, if this is all you have already lost. Qin Wenyan roared, like a supreme god of war. His demon bloodline surged ferociously as he prepared to unleash an even stronger attack. A mocking smile could be seen in Mo Xie's eyes. This smile caused Qin Wenyan to feel a sense of unease. Another heaven-shaking collision occurred, but this time around, a fearsome destructive might erupted forth from Mo Xie's body. Qin Wentian's God's hand could shake the heavens, but at this moment, it was being destroyed unceasingly as a supreme tribulation might bore down on him. At this moment, tribulation light engulfed everything, enveloping the area where he and Qin Wenyan were at. The boundless destructive might shattered the God's hand, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to drastically change. Mo Xie's energy, the countenances of everyone from the Qin sect drastically changed. A fearsome tribulation might gushed into Qin Wentian's body, causing him to tremble violently. After which, Mo Xie's black palm landed on his head as the destructive runic light transformed into a terrifying vortex of darkness, wanting to devour all of Qin Wentian's energy. Seizing my inheritance? Mo Xie's lips curled up in a cold arc. Senior brother. Jun Mengchen rushed out. Little rascal and Purgatory howled in rage. Qing'er's countenance drastically changed as boundless energy gushed forth from her as she rushed towards Mo Xie. Namhuang Yunxi was bathed in flames as she stepped out. She spoke in rage, Mo Xie, you've already established your immortal foundation. How despicable! Immortal foundation? Mo Xie has already established his immortal foundation. Everyone reacted as their countenances changed. Mo Xie had always been concealing his strength. Before this, he wanted to devour little rascal but failed. Hence, he wanted to devour the energy in Qin Wentian's body. He wanted to bait Qin Wentian into fighting him. Suddenly, tribulation clouds appeared in the air. It seemed that the law energy of the city of ancient emperors had descended. Mo Xie's countenance changed. He should have enough time. The black robe he was wearing was a supreme treasure that could conceal his aura. A few days ago, he had already established his immortal foundation in the city of ancient emperors, but he didn't allow the law energy of the city of ancient emperors to discover it. Scram! The might of his immortal foundation gushed forth as beams of destructive tribulation light danced wildly, engulfing the heavens and earth. A devil saber appeared in his hand as he unleashed his immortal foundation strength. With a single slash, the heavens and earth trembled, and no one could get close to him. Qin Wenyan stared at Mo Xie, his eyes gleaming with a towering light. The Yuan Fu in his body rumbled, as though it was a world within him. Boundless astral energy converged into the form of a true dragon. More and more greater demons appeared within his body, howling madly as the power of his bloodline gushed forth, akin to a descendant of an ancient demonic god. Roar! A heaven-shaking roar rang out from Qin Wentian's mouth, akin to the roar of a demon god. Above him, the shadow of a supreme greater demon manifested. This shadow opened its palms and opened its mouth, causing rumbling sounds to fill the air. Numerous true dragons appeared, wanting to shatter the heavens as they rushed towards Mo Xie. Mo Xie's countenance changed. His left hand wielded the devil saber, blocking the incoming attack. He had no choice but to retract his right hand, moving it away from Qin Wentian's head. His immortal foundation radiated with a supreme light as a supreme might transformed into a finger strike that shot towards the greater demon. The attack shook the heavens and earth. The greater demon was destroyed unceasingly, but the terrifying might of the finger strike also forced Mo Xie to retreat. Qin Wentian directly slashed out with the demon sword. Mo Xie released his grip on the devil saber and directly stretched his arm forward. The might of his immortal foundation erupted forth as destructive runic light gushed forth, shattering the immortal sword. In the air, law energy descended as beams of light cascaded down from the heavens, enveloping Mo Xie. This scene caused Mo Xie's countenance to change. He stared at Qin Wentian as an expression of reluctance appeared on his face. "I should have killed you earlier. Consider yourself lucky today." Mo Xie spoke in a cold voice. The light cascaded down on him, enveloping him. Qin Wentian knew the rules of the city of ancient emperors. If one broke through to immortal foundation and unleashed the might of their immortal foundation, they would be expelled from the city of ancient emperors. Mo Xie had already relied on his black robes to cheat the rules of the city of ancient emperors. Only now did he reveal himself. Mo Xie's body slowly rose up into the air, being brought away by the law energy. Qin Wentian stared at his back as he coldly spoke. "Mo Xie, let's meet again in the immortal realms." Mo Xie's eyes flashed with coldness. Meet again in the immortal realms? He also hoped that they would meet again. Finally, Mo Xie vanished. However, the hearts of the spectators weren't calm. Zi Daoyang and the current top ranker of the immortal ascension rankings, as well as Qin Wentian, had almost died in Mo Xie's hands. This man was too dangerous. Seeing Mo Xie's silhouette vanishing, Qin Wentian's gaze remained fixed on him for a very long time. Qing and the others also came to his side. Qin Wentian murmured, "It's time for us to leave the city of ancient emperors." Chapter 985. Mo Xie was sent away by the rules of the city of ancient emperors, but the hearts of the disciples of the Qin sect were filled with unease. Mo Xie was truly a character. Just the fact that he killed Zi Daoyang was already enough to cause fear in their hearts. And now, Mo Xie left with an indestructible physique, 3/9 of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, the sacred luminance, and his immortal foundation. Other than Qin Wentian and the others, Mo Xie could be considered a great winner in the city of ancient emperors. The one who felt the most sorrowful was undoubtedly Zi Daoyang. Naturally, Mo Xie's strength had no way to mask Qin Wentian's magnificence. He had long since made preparations. Not only did he protect his demonic beast companion, he even managed to escape from Mo Xie's immortal foundation. Such a battle record was sufficient for him to be proud of. It was just that this battle had been too dangerous. If we meet again in the immortal realms in the future, we must definitely kill Mo Xie. Jun Mingchen's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. Mo Xie's ruthless methods had almost succeeded. "Everyone, let's disperse. With Mo Xie's departure, there won't be any more disturbances in the Qin sect." Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the people in the air. The Violet sect had disintegrated, and Mo Xie had left. Right now, the Qin sect could be said to be a hegemonic power in the city of ancient emperors. Everyone nodded and departed. Qin Wentian walked out, but Qing'er, Jun Mingchen, Nam Huang Yunxi and the others didn't leave. They followed behind Qin Wentian and landed in the cultivation ground. "Qin Wentian, are you preparing to leave?" Nam Huang Yunxi asked. Earlier, she had heard Qin Wentian's words. "There's no longer any pressure in the city of ancient emperors. It's time to leave," Qin Wentian replied in a low voice. "This time around, the main reason I came here was to search for Qing'er." At the side, Qing'er's beautiful eyes flickered. Nam Huang Yunxi glanced at her and smiled. "Indeed, you've already ascended to the top of the immortal ascension rankings in the city of ancient emperors. Given how powerful our Qin sect is, there's no other power that can contend against us. There's no longer a need for us to continue staying here. I've already been out for so many years. What about you guys? What are your thoughts? If you are willing to continue staying in the city of ancient emperors, that's fine too. Qin Wenyan glanced at the others. Zi Daoyang has fallen, and Mo Xie has left. Right now, the top 10 rankers are all here. What's the point of remaining here? Jun Mingchen spoke, causing everyone to laugh. All right, we'll go back to the teleportation area tomorrow. Qin Wenyan said in a low voice, "Go and rest." Everyone nodded and dispersed. On the morning of the second day, Qin Wenyan gathered the members of the Qin sect and told them about their departure. The geniuses of the Qin sect weren't too surprised. "Brother Qin, if we meet again in the immortal realms in the future, don't treat me as a stranger," someone laughed. "If you guys are willing to treat me as a friend, we can still be brothers even after we leave the city of ancient emperors," Qin Wenyan straightforwardly replied. "Good. I hope we still have a chance to fight side by side in the future." Someone laughed. Qin Wenyan glanced at Su Ruxue as he spoke. "After I leave, the Qin sect will be temporarily handed over to Su Ruxue to manage. As for the future, I'll leave it to all of you to decide for yourselves." Su Ruxue stared at Qin Wenyan and the others, feeling some fluctuations in her heart. This group of people all exuded magnificence throughout the generations. Although they only had a short period of glory, their names were engraved in the minds of the entire city of ancient emperors. "Everyone, I bid my farewell." Qin Wenyan soared up into the air. A moment later, the group of them stepped onto Qing'er's void leaf and waved goodbye to the people of the Qin sect. The disciples of the Qin sect inclined their heads and also waved goodbye. A bright light flashed as the void leaf vanished. The group of people departed. "They are leaving." Everyone sighed in disappointment. Countless geniuses came and went in the city of ancient emperors, and among them, there was no lack of supreme geniuses. After they left, they were gradually drowned out by the immortal realms. But there were also those who became characters whose names shook the entire immortal realms. If that fellow doesn't die, he would definitely become a hegemon in the future. Liu stared into the distance. He was the first to know Qin Wenyan and the others. Qin Wentian's rate of improvement was too terrifying, and his future was boundless. Let's hope that in the future, when we hear his name again, he would have already become an immortal emperor, Su Ruxue murmured. Very swiftly, more and more news circulated around the city of ancient emperors, causing yet another wave of commotion to arise. The person who killed Zi Daoyang had already been confirmed. It was none other than Mo Xie. Last night, he even went to hunt down Qin Wenyan and Little Rascal and almost succeeded. In addition, Mo Xie had already established his immortal foundation and stepped into the immortal realm. Other than this, Qin Wenyan and the other peak experts of the Qin sect also departed, leaving the city of ancient emperors. From now on, their names would no longer be on the immortal ascension rankings. Most probably, Shen Yang would ascend to the top. However, this time around, 9 out of the top 10 had left. This could be considered unprecedented. The new batch of top 10 rankers would most probably be the weakest in the history of the immortal ascension rankings. To the east of the city of ancient emperors, at the end of the wilderness, there was a desolate sea region. This was the place where one could leave the city of ancient emperors. At this moment, Qin Wenyan and the others arrived here. Terrifying dark clouds gathered before them as a terrifying storm of darkness raged above the sea region. However, at the border of the storm, there was an ancient building that flowed with law energy. Numerous teleportation altars could be seen here, and immortal foundation experts would be teleported away by the law energy. As for those who had yet to break through to immortal foundation, they had to come here themselves if they wanted to leave the city of ancient emperors. "Let's enter." Nam Huang Yunshi spoke. After that, the group of them stepped into the ancient building. There were actually a total of 9 teleportation altars before them, and they were all located in different directions. Each of these altars corresponds to a different location in the immortal realms. It's rumored that these altars were constructed by ancient emperors and are all one-way teleportation arrays. The Namhuang clan is located in the southern region of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. I will step onto that altar. What about you guys? Nam Huang Yunshi pointed to an altar as she spoke. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze to Qing'e, only to hear Qing'e asking in a low voice, "Will you accompany me to the Evergreen Kingdom?" Staring at Qing'e's beautiful countenance, Qin Wenyan smiled and nodded. He held her hand. I will accompany you back to the Evergreen Kingdom. What about you guys? Qin Wenyan turned his head and stared at Jun Mingchen, Hua Taishu and the others. I want to pay a visit to Master. Hua Taishu spoke in a low voice. Senior brother, are you going to pay a visit to your father-in-law? In that case, me and Sis Qingxin won't disturb you guys. Let's return. Jun Mingchen laughed heartily. Qin Wenyan glared at him. He naturally understood what Jun Mingchen was referring to. Most probably, they would return to the Heavenly Talisman realm. The Evergreen Kingdom and the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures are located in the same region. You guys just need to step onto that teleportation altar and split up after you arrive. Nam Huang Yunshi pointed to an altar. There were only 9 altars here and it was impossible for them to connect all the different regions in the immortal realms. Hence, the Evergreen Kingdom and the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures were considered to be part of the same region. Okay, let's move out. Qin Wenyan nodded. A moment later, Nam Huang Yunshi stepped onto a teleportation altar while Qin Wenyan and the others stepped onto another. Strands of law energy descended from the sky, drawing upon the power of the teleportation altar. Instantly, boundless runes cascaded downwards, enveloping the entire space. Qin Wenyan only felt that they were in the middle of a sea of terrifying runes. It felt like the end of the world had arrived. What a terrifying teleportation altar! Qin Wenyan spoke in a low voice. This is a teleportation array that can traverse the boundless immortal realms. It's only natural. Nam Huang Yunshi glanced at them. We will meet again in the future if fate wills it. Nam Huang Yunshi, farewell. Qin Wenyan called out. Boundless runic light enveloped them, causing the sky to change color as they vanished from their original location. The territory of the Evergreen Kingdom was boundlessly vast. Chang'an City was one of the most powerful cities in the Evergreen Kingdom. An army was stationed here, guarding the eastern side of the Evergreen Kingdom. Chang'an City was extremely flourishing and had countless experts. The city lord of Chang'an was a hegemon of the Evergreen Kingdom, an immortal general who was responsible for guarding an area. He was conferred the title of Chang'an Marquis and was a powerful immortal king character. At this moment, in the airspace above Chang'an City, a strong hurricane suddenly appeared. A terrifying spatial storm was formed, causing countless people to raise their heads and stare at the sky. After which, they saw a few silhouettes stepping out from the spatial storm. These people were none other than Qin Wenyan and the others. The eyes of Qin Wenyan and the others flickered as they stared downwards. This teleportation altar would only teleport them to a general area, not a specific location. Hence, it was possible for them to teleport to any location. What a powerful spatial storm. Who are these people? The experts below discussed, feeling curious. Let's go down and ask. Qin Wenyan spoke. Immediately, a group of people descended. Jun Mingchen looked at one of them and asked, Sir, may I know where this place is? Did you guys teleport here? That person asked curiously. I don't know where we were teleported to. Jun Mingchen grinned. I see. This is Chang'an City, that person replied. Chang'an City? Which power is this place under? Jun Mingchen wasn't sure. That person rolled his eyes and said, Chang'an City of the Evergreen Kingdom is naturally under the jurisdiction of Chang'an Marquis. We've arrived at the Evergreen Kingdom. Jun Mingchen's eyes brightened. He turned his head and stared at Qin Wenyan and Qing'e. Seems like you guys are already very close to your destination. Chang'an City is still some distance away, but there should be a teleportation array in the City Lord Manor. Qing'e spoke in a low voice. Qin Wenyan nodded. In that case, shall we directly head to the City Lord Manor? Qing'e nodded. Given her status, it was naturally not a problem for her to use the teleportation array. Since this is the case, senior brother, I will directly return with Sister Qing'e, Jun Mengchen spoke. Qin Wenyan and Qing'er wanted to meet the evergreen immortal emperor. He naturally wouldn't disturb them. I will also leave first. Let's bid farewell here. Hua Taishu spoke. Qin Wenyan then spoke, take care. Senior brother, I'll be waiting for your good news. Jun Mengchen smiled. After that, he directly stepped out and waved his hands, let's go. I will also bid farewell. I wish you all the best. Hua Taishu glanced at Qin Wenyan and Qing'er before leaving as well. Qin Wenyan carried little Rascal in his arms. Purgatory was hidden in his bloodline. Only he and Qing'er were left here. The two of them exchanged glances before stepping out. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered. He didn't know how the evergreen immortal emperor would view him. Chapter 986. The Evergreen Kingdom was different from the Dongshangshan Gate. The Evergreen Kingdom was a country, while the Dongshangshan Gate governed the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures. Hence, the rulers of the various prefectures all had different titles. If the status of the Evergreen Marquis was placed in the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures of the past, he would be equivalent to the prefecture lord of a prefecture. His authority was towering, and he was an immortal king expert. Not only that, the feudal vassals of the Evergreen Kingdom were all appointed by the upper echelons of the immortal empire. Many years ago, after the Chongqing the Great succeeded in seizing control of the immortal empire, the feudal vassals of the Evergreen Marquis were all characters that the Chongqing the Great trusted. The Marquis Manor of the Evergreen Marquis was majestic, standing in the center of the city. The outer perimeter of the manor was heavily guarded by troops of soldiers. At this moment, two silhouettes walked over. It was a man and a woman. They walked to the entrance of the manor and stared at the straight passageway before them that led to the depths of the manor. It was a simple yet majestic sight. Halt! Upon seeing Qin Wentian and Qing'er approaching, a soldier stepped forward and pointed the long spear in his hand at them. Outsiders are not permitted to enter the Marquis Manor. I wish to see the Evergreen Marquis. Qing'er coldly spoke as she stared ahead. Upon seeing Qing'er's extraordinary demeanor and directly saying that she wanted to see the Chang'an Marquis, the armored soldier didn't dare to be slow. One of them asked, "Who are you?" Qing'er took out a jade medallion and stretched it out. This medallion was imbued with runes of light and the word Qing'er was engraved on it. The guard glanced at it and frowned. This seemed to be the Immortal Empire medallion, but what did the word Qing'er mean? When they glanced at Qing'er again, their eyes involuntarily narrowed. One of them asked, "Are you the princess?" "That's me," Qing'er said indifferently. In an instant, the two guards landed on the ground and knelt on one knee. This subordinate greets the princess. The soldiers inside were all shocked. After that, they turned their gazes over. An Immortal Foundation expert walked over and upon seeing the token in Qing's hand, he too knelt on one knee and greeted, "We pay our respects to Princess." Behind him, the soldiers all knelt down on one knee, extremely respectful. "Get up, I have something to see Chang and Ho about," Qing'er said indifferently. "Princess, please follow me." That Immortal Foundation expert stood up. The soldiers in the surroundings parted to the left and right, opening up a path for them. Qing'er and Qin Wentian stepped forward, moving through the central passageway. "Reporting to the Marquis that Her Highness Princess Qing'er has arrived." A voice rang out. An instant later, similar voices echoed throughout the Marquis Manor, drifting towards the depths of the manor. In a majestic great hall, two figures sat there, enjoying tea. These two seemed to be husband and wife. The man was incomparably ferocious while the woman was elegant and graceful, exuding an extraordinary aura. Clearly, they had been in a high position for a long time, exuding a sense of imposingness. Reporting to the Marquis that Her Highness Princess Qing'er has arrived. At this moment, the voices drifted into the great hall. The two of them exchanged glances as a look of shock could be seen in their eyes. The daughter of the ever-peace great emperor, His Majesty, Princess Qing'er? However, the two of them were immortal kings. Their expressions instantly returned to normal. The ever-peace Marquis stood up and spoke. "Since Her Highness is here, let us go and welcome her. I heard that Princess Qing went to the city of ancient emperors to temper herself. Now that she is back, she should be passing by our ever-peace Marquis Manor and is here to borrow the teleportation array to head to the royal palace." The eyes of the Marquis Madam flashed with wisdom. Her guess was extremely accurate, and she instantly knew the purpose of Qing Er's visit. Why should we care about her purpose? Since she is here, we naturally have to treat her well and escort her back. The ever-peace Marquis spoke. However, the eyes of the Marquis Madam flickered unceasingly. After that, she smiled. "Of course we have to treat her well and escort her back. It's just that it wasn't easy for Princess Qing to come to our manor. We naturally have to grab hold of this opportunity and inform Fan to interact with the princess." You always have so many ideas. However, it's not like you haven't heard of the personality of the Princess Qing. She's a cold beauty and has never shown any mercy to others. In addition, although Fan Er's talent isn't bad, he is still a little lacking when compared to Princess Qing. The ever-peace Marquis seemed to know his own limitations. My father is already a half-step immortal emperor. He established the empire for the ever-peace immortal emperor and was conferred the title of king. Fan Er is my son, the grandson of my father. How could his status be lacking? The eyes of the Marquis Madam gleamed with sharpness. Right now, my father is in urgent need of a connection with the Princess Qing. Even if this Princess Qing doesn't like Fan, what harm is there in being friends with her? Your words are not without reason. But since the princess is borrowing the teleportation array, I'm afraid she won't stay here for long. The ever-peace Marquis spoke. If you enter closed-door seclusion, no one in the ever-peace Marquis Manor would have the authority to use the teleportation array. You can go into closed-door seclusion now and leave everything to me to handle. The Marquis Madam's voice was decisive, swift, and decisive. The ever-peace Marquis nodded. "Fine. You handle this matter well." After speaking, he actually walked into the depths of the Great Hall. The Marquis Madam stood up, her eyes gleaming with sharpness. After that, she walked out of the Great Hall. Qin Wenyin and Qing continued on their way through the manor. This manor was extremely vast, and they quickened their pace. At this moment, from afar, a group of silhouettes could be seen flying over. The person in the lead was a beautiful middle-aged woman with a smile on her face, exuding a cultured and refined aura. She came before Qing and bowed. "I pay my respects to Princess." "Princess, this is the Marquis Madam, the daughter of the Cloud King." An Immortal Foundation expert introduced. Princess Qing had never been to the Marquis Manor before, but she should know of the Cloud King. "Madam is too polite. Is the Marquis not around?" Qing nodded. Her tone was extremely polite. She naturally knew of the Cloud King. This was an extremely powerful nobility in the Evergreen Immortal Emperor's palace and had contributed greatly to the Evergreen Immortal Emperor's ascension to the throne. The Marquis is currently in closed-door seclusion and is at a critical juncture. He will exit within a few days. "Princess, please enjoy the banquet." The Marquis Madam politely gestured with an inviting gesture. Qing didn't reject and directly walked forward. "When will the Marquis exit seclusion?" "I wish to use the teleportation array to head to the royal palace." "Is Princess in a hurry?" the Marquis Madam asked. "Emichim." Qing nodded. She didn't intend to stay here for long. According to the rules of the Immortal Empire, without the Marquis present, no one can activate the teleportation array. "Princess, please rest here for a day. After the banquet, I will accompany Princess to the Demon Forest to select a greater demon. If the Marquis doesn't exit seclusion by tomorrow, I will send a Demon King to escort Princess there." The Marquis Madam smiled, taking care of everything. Qing had no way to reject. She glanced at Qin Wenyin, and Qin Wenyin could only nod and smile back at her. The Marquis Madam naturally saw this scene, but she didn't say anything. The Marquis Manor was indeed worthy of being a Marquis of the Immortal Empire. In such an elegant location, an immortal banquet was immediately prepared. Other than the Marquis himself, Many major characters of the Marquis Manor came to pay their respects to Qing. At this moment, a young man and woman walked over. The young man was handsome while the young woman was beautiful. Fan Ulian, quickly pay your respects to Her Highness Qing. The princess is a natural-born king. You too have to learn from her. The Marquis Madam stared at the two of them. The young man was dressed simply, yet he didn't lose his elegance. As for the young woman, she exuded an aura of spirituality. They walked to Qing. Xia Fan greeted, "Greetings, princess." In the past, I've often heard the name Princess Qing. Who would have thought that Princess Sis is actually so beautiful, just like a fairy? Qing smiled. Qing wasn't good at socializing. She merely smiled and nodded at them. Princess Sis, can I sit beside you? Charlene giggled. She glanced at Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan smiled. Let me give up my seat. After speaking, Qing shifted to the side. Charlene smiled sweetly at Qin Wenyan. Many thanks. I still don't know where you are from. Since you returned with the princess from the city of ancient emperors, you must be a descendant of immortal kings and emperors as well, right? Qin Wenyan shook his head. A senior sent me there, but I'm not a descendant of an immortal king or emperor. Princess Qing and I traveled together, wanting to broaden our horizons and broaden our horizons. Oh! Charlene's beautiful eyes flickered. After that, she raised her cup to Qing. Princess Sis, let me toast you. In the future, when I go to the royal palace, can Princess Sis take care of me? Sure. Qing replied. During the banquet, the Marquis Madam and Charlene were extremely lively. Both of them were extremely polite, treating Qing like an esteemed guest. However, Qing wasn't used to such a scene. Not long after, she suggested, why don't we head over there to select a greater demon? There's naturally no problem if Princess says so. Let's disperse. The Marquis Madam stood up and spoke to Qing. Princess, please. After speaking, she soared up into the air. Qing and Qin Wenyan also soared up into the air. Xia Fan and Charlene followed behind, following the Marquis Madam as they soared through the air in a certain direction. Not long after, they arrived at a vast area. There were many demonic beasts in front of them. The weakest among them was at the celestial phenomenon realm. There were even many immortal-ranked demonic beasts with incomparably sharp gazes. These were all extremely powerful demonic beasts. Naturally, there were also many demonic beast-rearing experts here, especially for the Marquis Manor. Princess, do you need a demonic beast as a mount? There are many greater demons with powerful bloodlines in this demon forest. Princess, feel free to choose one. Xia Fan spoke to Qing. There's no need. Qing shook her head. Little rascal who was in her arms glared at Xia Fan. Fan, accompany the princess to select a demon king. The Marquis Madam spoke to Xia Fan. Xia Fan nodded his head and turned to Qing. Princess, the temperament of demon kings is fierce. Let me bring you there. Let me help the princess. Qin Wenyan walked up and spoke. Given his intelligence, how could he not see through the Marquis Madam's intentions? In addition to her earlier performance at the Immortal Banquet, it was clear that she wanted Xia Fan to interact with Qing. Let him go. Qing nodded. Princess, the temperament of demon kings is fierce. Strangers are not allowed to interact with them, they might get injured. The Marquis Madam spoke. Qing frowned. After which, she spoke to the Marquis Madam. Since this is the case, Madam can accompany me. The Marquis Madam naturally understood the meaning behind Qing's words. Evidently, Qing didn't want to interact with men. She naturally understood that it was better to not overdo it. Hence, she smiled and replied, Fine, I will accompany the princess. You all wait here for a moment. Charlene smiled sweetly. After which, the Marquis Madam and Qing left together. After they left, Xia Fan's countenance instantly turned cold. He glanced at Qin Wenyan, evidently unhappy with Qin Wenyan for talking too much earlier. Qin Wenyan acted as though nothing had happened. Charlene smiled at him. Brother Qin, since the princess is willing to bring you to the immortal empire, she must regard you highly. Does she want to recruit you as a subordinate? That should be the case. Qin Wendian faintly replied. He didn't seem to mind at all. Charlene nodded her head, smiling at Qin Wendian. In that case, a slave like you wants to curry favor with a dragon and curry favor with a phoenix? Chapter 987. Qin Wendian's eyes narrowed when he heard Charlene's words. He turned his gaze onto Charlene only to see her smiling back at him, as though what she said was harmless. That beautiful countenance of hers, as well as the beautiful image she had created earlier, all crumbled at this moment. This was her true self. Before this, she had always been perfect in front of Qin, but now, she had revealed her true self without any reservations. Did I hit the nail on the head? Will you fly into a rage out of humiliation? Charlene giggled as though she didn't care about Qin Wendian at all. In the royal palace, there are countless descendants of nobles and geniuses with nobility. A mere servant like you wants to rise to the top? What a fool's dream. Are you done? Qin Wendian stared coldly at Charlene. Are you not convinced? Do you want to complain to Princess Qin? It would be interesting for a man like you to complain. Charlene laughed and whistled. A moment later, two greater demons flew over from afar. With a flap of their wings, they landed beside Charlene and her brother, Xia Fan. No matter what my identity is, I accompanied Qing to the Marquis Manor as a guest. Even if I'm really a servant, you have no right to humiliate me, right? Qin Wendian coldly spoke. Charlene still didn't put him in her eyes. Her silhouettes flickered as they landed on the backs of the greater demons. Under Charlene's feet was a winged beast with the bloodline of a great rock, while under Xia Fan's feet was a ferocious white tiger that emitted a low growl. Little Rascal, who was in Qin Wendian's arms, popped its head out and stared at them coldly. Are you still not convinced yet? Charlene's smile grew even more radiant. Xia Fan, who was standing beside her, stepped on the white tiger and spoke in a low voice. Charlene, let's go. He didn't look at Qin Wendian. Earlier, this pair of brother and sister addressed Qin Wendian as brother, appearing to be extremely friendly. But now, their true colors were revealed. Charlene nodded and glanced at Qin Wendian with a cold smile. Suddenly, the big demon she was sitting on flapped its wings and was about to soar into the sky. However, Charlene's body abruptly shot forward, and the demonic beast beneath her let out a long howl. She abruptly turned her gaze over, coldly staring at Qin Wendian. At this moment, the tail of the demonic beast was firmly grasped by Qin Wendian's large hand. Qin Wendian's gaze was cold as he stared at her. This is the Marquis Manor. I don't want to make things difficult for Qin. Apologize, I won't pursue this matter. Impudent. Xia Fan coldly snorted when he saw this scene. He stared at Qin Wendian. How audacious of you. Qin Wendian raised his head and looked at Xia Fan coldly. These two siblings were really arrogant. Dog slave, let me teach you a lesson on behalf of Princess Qin. Charlene waved her hands, and a moment later, a fiery red whip lashed out towards Qin Wendian. Instantly, the shadow of the whip manifested in the air, exuding a terrifying might as it whistled through the air. If this whip were to land, the flesh of a person would be lacerated and lacerated. Qin Wendian stretched out his palms. Resplendent runic lights flickered in his palms as he directly grabbed hold of the whip. That terrifying whip lashed out in his palms as though nothing had happened. A ferocious howl rang out. The demonic beast beneath Charlene's feet lunged towards Qin Wendian, its baleful aura towering up into the sky. Little Rascal, who was in Qin Wendian's embrace, had a black golden light flickering in its eyes when it saw this scene. With a howl, its body expanded in size as its sharp claws directly slammed into the head of the demonic beast. A terrifying runic light flashed, transforming into a towering might that caused the powerful demonic beast to howl in agony, as though it had been devoured by Little Rascal. This scene caused Charlene to be stunned. Her countenance turned incredibly unsightly to behold, the smile on her face could no longer be seen. Qin Wentian's demonic beast actually directly swallowed her mount. Although it was only a celestial phenomenon ascendant, it was still her mount after all. You are courting death. Charlene roared in rage. A tyrannical aura gushed forth from her as she ferociously lunged towards Qin Wenyan. However, Qin Wenyan directly lifted his palms and blasted outwards. A gigantic palm imprint appeared in the air, directly smashing apart everything. With a thunderous boom, Charlene's body was flung through the air. Her entire body was numb from the impact, and her face was burning with pain. Several bones in her body were fractured, and she was directly slapped to the ground as blood flowed from the corners of her mouth. Charlene's countenance was completely drained of blood. Her countenance was as pale as paper, and her countenance was so dark that it was terrifying. This place was the Everpeace Marquis Manor, her home. The Everpeace Marquis Manor had towering authority in this boundlessly vast region. Her maternal grandfather was a supreme character in the entire Evergreen Kingdom, doting on her and treating her like a treasure. But now, she was actually slapped away by a slave in her own home. Even if this slave was the slave of Princess Qin, wanting to curry favor with the nobility was unforgivable. Xia Fan, who was hovering in the air, was also stunned. The servants who were feeding the demonic beasts also trembled when they saw this scene. I want him to die, Charlene said coldly. From afar, demonic beasts were rushing towards them. Xia Fan frowned. Things seemed to have gotten out of hand. Although he didn't like Qin Wenyan, he wasn't stupid. Before beating a dog, one had to look at its master first. Before this, he only wanted to humiliate Qin Wenyan, but he didn't want to do anything to him. After all, if he did, Princess Qin would know that they were disrespecting the princess by attacking a follower of the Everpeace Marquis Manor. But now that things had gotten out of hand, this person used the fact that he was a follower of the princess to slap Charlene in his own home. This was intolerable. Kill him. Cold, Xia Fan ordered. Since things had already come to this, he could only act first and explain to the princess later. Once Qin Wenyan died, they could do whatever they wanted. Even if the princess wasn't happy about it, she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. However, his mother's efforts were going to be in vain. However, the Everpeace Marquis Manor's position was stable. His maternal grandfather had followed the emperor to conquer the world. Even if Princess Qin really had something against the Everpeace Marquis Manor, she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Hence, Xia Fan gave a ruthless order. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light when he heard Xia Fan's words. Kill him. Xia Fan had given the order to kill him. This was completely different from the earlier humiliation. Not only did killing him mean that Qin Wentian's life was worthless, he also didn't put Qin in his eyes at all. Even if Qin Wentian was just a servant, he wasn't someone they could kill. Qin Wentian's aura erupted forth. The coldness in the air was incomparable. A terrifying might engulfed the heavens and earth. Little Rascal let out an earth-shattering roar as he floated in the air. Golden light radiated from his body, as though he was cast from pure gold. Boom! Little Rascal's body transformed as a pair of golden wings appeared on his back. His body transformed into a golden-winged great rock that floated in the air. His eyes gleamed with a fearsome golden sharpness as golden swords shot out from his eyes. A resplendent light circulated around his wings. Little Rascal's silhouette flickered as he transformed into a beam of golden light. Spreading his wings, he abruptly slashed through the air, causing terrifying swishing sounds to ring out. His speed was too terrifying. The bodies of many demonic beasts were directly slashed apart, causing the entire area to turn upside down. Qin Wenyan took a step forward and directly rushed towards Xia Fan. Xia Fan's countenance changed when he sensed the towering might radiating from Qin Wenyan. A moment later, a thunderous rumbling sound rang out as a gigantic palm imprint blotted out the sun blasted towards Xia Fan. The white tiger howled in rage and lunged forward. However, how terrifying was Qin Wentian's palm strike now? He was the top ranker of the immortal ascension rankings in the city of ancient emperors. In the vast and boundless immortal realms, there weren't many who could contend against him at the same cultivation level. The white tiger was directly slain. But the might of the palm imprint didn't diminish at all. Xia Fan's countenance turned pale. He didn't expect Qin Wendian to be so powerful. Was this the reason why Princess Qin wanted him to follow her? Those who came from the city of ancient emperors were truly terrifying. Xia Fan circulated all his strength to defend, but he was still flung through the air as he slammed heavily onto the ground. From afar, more and more demonic beasts were rushing over. Even immortal demons were released, causing Qin Wendian's countenance to change. He roared loudly as thousands of palm imprints blasted out at the same time. The space trembled as the demonic beasts howled in agony as they were slain one after another. Blood rained down from the sky. At this moment, a silhouette flickered over from afar, traversing the void with a single step. Instantly, the battle stopped. This person was none other than the Marquis Madame. The Marquis Madame's beautiful eyes were cold. She swept her gaze over and saw her son lying on the ground. Her woman was the same, her clothes were in a mess, and blood could be seen flowing from the corners of her mouth. Those demonic beasts were either dead or injured. From afar, numerous experts were rushing over. When they saw this scene, their hearts trembled in fear. The Marquis Madame was the daughter of the Cloud King, and was a descendant of a prestigious clan. She had always been protective of her children, but now, her son was heavily injured by an outsider. The Marquis Madame's cold eyes stared at Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian could see the killing intent in her eyes. "Mother, this man is extremely rude. He actually dared to insult me with his words." Charlene sobbed. "I insulted him, and he actually dared to say that my Marquis manner is nothing. He's a follower of Princess Qin. How could a mere Marquis manner be in his eyes?" The Marquis Madame's aura grew even colder, gushing towards Qin Wendian. She didn't act immediately because she was contemplating. As a mother, how could she not know whether Charlene's words were true or false? However, this was also one of Charlene's intelligence. She directly accused Qin Wendian of a crime. No matter what, she would have to give an explanation to the princess. "Causing a massacre in my Marquis manner. Even if you offend the princess, I won't tolerate you." The Marquis Madame coldly spoke. After that, she stretched out her palm and stabbed out with a finger. Instantly, Qin Wendian only felt a supreme might boring down on him, causing his countenance to turn pale. "Stay your hand." From afar, a cold voice rang out. Tira's countenance was pale as she madly rode on the void leaf and rushed over. The eyes of the Marquis Madame flashed. That finger of hers continued to land, causing the sky to change color, destroying everything. Qin paled. This was an attack from an immortal king. Chapter 988. As this attack landed, Qing'er's heart pounded violently. She had never expected such a thing to happen. She had clearly shouted for the Marquis Madame to stop, yet this attack from the Everpeace Marquis still landed. An attack from an immortal king could easily take Qin Wendian's life. Qin Wendian's countenance drastically changed. The destructive might gushed forth, incomparably suppressive. He basically didn't have time to think. With an intention of his will, a treasured cauldron directly appeared before him. Right now, he could only use this cauldron to block this attack. He didn't even have time to unleash his demon sword, and even if he did, he wouldn't be able to block this attack. Only this cauldron, an ancient treasure, would have a chance to block this attack. That finger attack could penetrate through everything. There was no doubt that if it landed on Qin Wendian would definitely die. But just as the finger attack landed, a treasured cauldron appeared before Qin Wendian. A thunderous boom rang out. The finger attack slammed into the cauldron. Terrifying sparks erupted from the collision, but the attack wasn't violent. It contained the power of destruction within. Once it struck Qin Wendian, his entire body would be destroyed, disintegrating into nothingness. However, when it struck the cauldron, it didn't manage to penetrate through it. But even so, the cauldron still ruthlessly slammed into Qin Wendian, causing him to be flung through the air. Qin Wendian coughed out a mouthful of blood as he slammed into the ground. The Everpeace Marquis Madame's gaze was extremely terrifying. She instantly discovered that her attack had no way to kill Qin Wendian. She lifted her palm once more, wanting to use her supreme might to kill Qin Wenyan. If you dare to attack again, I will annihilate your entire clan. A bone-chilling voice rang out, cold to the extreme. What sort of status did the Marquis Madam have? If it was an ordinary person threatening her, she would definitely ignore it. However, this was a threat from the Princess of Everpeace. In addition, the tone of the voice was too cold. Even though she was an immortal king, she could still feel a bone-chilling coldness. She lifted her hand and didn't slash out in the end. With a flash of light, Qin Er's silhouette appeared beside Qin Wenyan. At this moment, Qin Wenyan had already stood up. His cold eyes stared at the Marquis Madam as he coldly stated, "To think that the Everpeace Marquis Manor is actually filled with a bunch of scoundrels. How sad. How dare you?" Coldly, the Marquis Madam stared at Qin Er and said, "Your Highness, although this man was brought here by you, he actually dared to verbally abuse my daughter in my Hoer manor and even started a massacre. He is simply lawless. I hope that the princess will be able to uphold justice for my Hoer manor and kill this evil creature. The people of the Hoer manor are all so shameless." Qin Wenyan kept the cauldron as he stared at the Marquis Madam. "Your daughter insulted me by calling me a dog slave. Now, it's me who verbally abused her instead. For a woman like her, even if you gave her to me, I would find her filthy." Charlene stood up, pointing her finger at Qin Wenyan as her countenance turned pale. At this moment, the experts of the Hoer manor rushed over, all of them staring at Qin Wenyan with unfriendly gazes. Regardless of who was in the right and who was in the wrong, this Qin Wenyan was just an outsider. Since he dared to spout such nonsense in their Hoer manor, it was sufficient to sentence him to death. Qin Er's aura was so cold that it was terrifying. If she was just a little bit slower, Qin Wenyan would have died in the hands of the subordinates of her father. As she thought of this, Qin Er clenched her fists, feeling a lingering fear and anger in her heart. Her eyes were cold to the extreme as she took a step out, directly moving towards the Marquis Madam. The Marquis Madam stared at her, not avoiding her gaze at all. "I hope Princess will consider the reputation of the Hoer manor and punish this traitor." Qin Er lifted her hand, causing the Everpeace Marquis Madam to frown. In the next instant, the countenance of the Marquis Madam turned ice-cold. She released her aura, yet she didn't dare to act against Qin. After all, Qin Er's status was clear. "Pack!" A crisp sound rang out as the entire space turned silent. Everyone stared in shock at this scene, not daring to believe that this was real. Even for the Marquis Madam, her gaze froze as she stared at Qin Er in the eyes. She was the Marquis Madam, the daughter of the Cloud King. To think that she was actually slapped by the princess within the Hoer manor. Not only that, it was a slap in the face in front of everyone. "Impudent!" An expert from the Hoer manor roared in anger. Several silhouettes stepped out as their auras violently gushed forth. "Scram, this is the princess. Are you all trying to rebel?" The Marquis Madam swept her gaze across the crowd, causing them to shudder in fear. However, there were still some who spoke out in anger. "Princess, do you know what you are doing?" Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Qin Er lifted her palm once again. At this moment, the eyes of the Marquis Madam gleamed with an extremely cold light as she coldly spoke, "Princess!" Her voice was extremely loud, penetrating directly into Qin Er's mind. However, Qin Er's gaze didn't waver in the slightest as she slapped out yet again. "Pack!" The sound of the slap was extremely crisp, not only slapping the Marquis Madam's face, it was also slapping the entire Hoer manor. Everyone's breathing was ragged as they stared fixedly ahead. Charlene was stunned, so was Xia Fan. Not even in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that things would turn out like this. For the sake of Qin Wenyan, the princess actually slapped their mother, the daughter of the Cloud King, in front of everyone. The Everpeace Marquis Manor was a marquis of an entire region. Even if she was the princess, she shouldn't be so insolent. Also, in terms of status, she was still considered a junior. Their mother was an immortal king expert. "Are you going to sentence me to death as well?" Qin Er coldly stared at the Marquis Madam. In her eyes, she didn't care about the status of the other party. Earlier, if she was a step slower, Qin Wenyin would have died in the hands of this woman. She only hated herself for not having enough strength. If not, it wouldn't be as simple as a few slaps. She would directly kill the Marquis Madam. "I don't dare, Your Highness." The Marquis Madam emphasized the words Your Highness. Her gaze was extremely cold as she continued to stare at Qing'er. "What do you not dare to do? You even dared to touch my friend, your son and daughter. I already shouted for you to stop, yet you still dared to kill him. In your eyes, do you still have any respect for your seniors? Do you still have any respect for me, the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom?" Qing'er's voice was extremely cold. She had never used her status to suppress others before. Evidently, she was truly enraged. She had thought that she might encounter great obstructions when she brought Qin Wenyin to the Evergreen Kingdom, but she never imagined that there would be someone who wanted to kill Qin Wenyin in the Evergreen Marquis manner. How could she not be enraged? The expressions of the people in the surroundings all changed. They could sense the anger of Qing'er from that cold voice. This youngest daughter of the Evergreen Immortal Emperor was using her status and authority to speak to the Marquis Madam. She wanted everyone to understand her identity. She was the princess of the Evergreen Marquis Manor, the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, and a candidate to become the successor of the Evergreen Kingdom. The Marquis Madam also didn't expect things to turn out like this. She could feel the coldness of the words "annihilate your entire clan," as well as the imposing might radiating from this princess. Even though she was an immortal king expert, her heart couldn't help but tremble. Princess words are too serious. It's just that your friend was too rude, your subordinate couldn't help but to act in a moment of impulse. The Marquis Madam gritted her teeth as she spoke. But yet another slap. This was the third time, and before the Marquis Madam could even finish her sentence, she had already been slapped. She stretched out her hands to cover her face, and at this moment, the word rage was no longer sufficient to describe her emotions. From the time she was born until now, for tens of thousands of years, she had never suffered such humiliation before. Never. The experts of the Evergreen Marquis Manor were all stunned speechless. "Mother." Charlone's countenance was as pale as paper. Before this, she was extremely polite to Qing'er and Qin Wenyin, but after that, she humiliated Qin Wenyin. From this, one could very well imagine how astute and arrogant she was. But at this moment, her arrogance was completely shattered by Qing'er's domineering attitude. She suddenly felt regret. It was her actions that caused her mother to be humiliated in public, causing the entire Evergreen Marquis Manor to be shamed. Qin Wenyin. Charlone's cold eyes stared at Qin Wenyin as killing intent flickered in them. Not even in her wildest dreams would she have imagined that Princess Qing'er would be so crazy for this young man. No one would have imagined that before this, she and Xia Fan were still planning to kill Qin Wenyin as an apology to Qing'er. But now it all seemed so laughable. If they really killed Qin Wenyin, the entire Evergreen Marquis Manor would definitely be turned upside down by Qing'er. "Princess, even if the madam is in the wrong, wouldn't your subordinate be bitterly disappointed by your actions?" Someone stepped out and spoke. "That's right. After all, it's your friend who took advantage of Miss Charlone first. For the sake of your friend, how could you humiliate the entire Evergreen Marquis Manor?" Another person loudly spoke. Although he lowered his head, appearing respectful, his tone was filled with unwillingness. The Marquis Madam stared at Qing'er, only to see Qing'er slowly turning around, her cold eyes sweeping over the crowd. Taking advantage of Charlone? Is she even worthy? Qing'er coldly stared at the crowd. These people dared to slander Qin Wenyin in front of her. How ridiculous! Qin Wenyin took advantage of Charlone? Qing'er stared at the crowd as she spoke icily. Qin Wenyin, the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. As the sound of her voice faded, the expressions of everyone froze as they turned to Qin Wenyin. Although many of them had never been to the city of ancient emperors, they had naturally heard of him. In the city of ancient emperors, geniuses were as common as the clouds. This man was the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even the Marquis Madam froze. She naturally understood the weight of the number 1 ranker in the city of ancient emperors. Without a doubt, Qin Wenyan would definitely become an immortal king in the future. Charlene and Xia Fan froze. When they thought of how they had humiliated Qin Wenyan, their hearts were incomparably complicated. Was this the reason why Princess Qing'e was so angry? Naturally not. Even if he was the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, what did he have to do with Qing'e? At this moment, Qing'e's silhouette flickered as she walked to the side of Qin Wenyan. She stretched out her hand and grabbed Qin Wenyan's. The two of them stood side by side, and this scene caused the eyes of the crowd to narrow as their hearts trembled. Charlene, is she even worthy? Qing'e coldly spoke. That simple action of hers was like the most powerful slap to the faces of the crowd. Qin Wenyan was a couple with her. Why would he take advantage of Charlene? Was Charlene even worthy? The slanderous lies collapsed on their own. Chapter 989. In the Everpeace Marquis manor, Qing'e was holding onto Qin Wenyan's hand. The gazes of everyone in the surroundings froze, and the people from the Everpeace Marquis manor felt their faces burning. They had been slandering Princess Qing'e's lover right in front of her. No wonder she would be so enraged, and no wonder she would slap Madame Qin Wenyan thrice. Because Princess Qing'e and the young man before them were lovers. Qin Wenyan, the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Qin Wenyan, he was in love with Princess Qing'e. Would she verbally disrespect Charlene? Talent, beauty, status, what did Charlene have to compare with Princess Qing'e? In addition, as long as the crowd wasn't a fool, they would understand that although Charlene's status wasn't too bad, and she was the golden daughter of the Everpeace Marquis manor, given Qin Wenyan's talent as the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, there would definitely be immortal emperors willing to accept him. Such a character was more than enough to be a match for someone like Charlene. If Qin Wenyan's brain wasn't damaged, why would he verbally disrespect her? Such a slanderous lie was extremely laughable at this moment. This was especially so for Charlene. She only felt a burning sensation on her face, as though she had also been slapped. How laughable! Earlier, she had called Qin Wenyan a dog slave. This entire space abruptly fell silent. Right now, it was easy to determine who was right and who was wrong. Charlene had slandered Princess Qing'e's lover, and had even used demonic beasts to surround and kill him. If one looked at it in a serious manner, this could be considered an act of treason. Even if Qin Wenyan wasn't Princess Qing'e's lover, and was merely a friend, he wasn't someone Charlene could slander and kill. This was simply a slap to the face of Princess Qing'e. The Everpeace Marquis Madam had slapped Princess Qing'e a few times in vain. Qin Wenyan had a cold smile on his face as he watched everything. He also didn't expect that in a mere manor in the Evergreen Kingdom, these people would almost take his life. This was what it meant to be a marquis with great authority. They didn't place anyone in their eyes, including Qing'e. Before this, when Xia Fan and Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan tried to kill Qin Wenyan, they had already taken Qing'e's existence into consideration. They still wanted to act first and report later. Once he died, there would be no evidence and they could pin all the blame on him. Qing'e's anger had yet to dissipate. If Qin Wenyan died, she would have thought. But here, this place was the Everpeace Marquis Manor, the Everpeace with the Everpeace Marquis. Qin Wenyan Peace Marquis Palace was Qing'e Fan's Qin and she had Marquis Manor. Qin Fan Marquis Qin Wenyan Marquis Sect Manor. How could Qing'e Marquis Qin Wenyan rest so easily? Qing'e's cold eyes landed on Charlene. Charlene, you first slandered Qin Wenyan, then you joined forces with Xia Fan to kill Qin Wenyan. And then, Marquis Madame Yun, despite my orders to stop, you still attacked Qin Wenyan, wanting to kill him. In your eyes, you have no respect for me, the princess, no respect for the Evergreen Kingdom, and no respect for my father. How are you going to punish me for this crime? As Qing'e finished speaking, her cold eyes stared at Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan. Hearing her words, the experts of the Everpeace Marquis Manor broke out in a cold sweat. This crime was indeed more serious. Moreover, it was obvious that Princess Qing'er did not intend to let this matter rest. She even brought up the name of the Evergreen Kingdom and the Chongqing the Great. The lips of Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan twitched, her countenance extremely ugly. Right now, she had no reason to refute Qing'er's words. "Charlene, are you the one who slandered the princess friend?" Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan coldly spoke. Right now, she could only endure with all her might. Other than this, what else could she do? Fall out with the princess? If that was the case, there would be no room for negotiation. If she fell out with the daughter of the great emperor, even her father, the Cloud King, wouldn't be able to protect her. "Mother!" Charlene's countenance paled as she spoke. "Earlier, Qin Wenyan was indeed disrespectful towards me. That was why I acted out of anger. Even if he is the princess lover, his character cannot be questioned." Right now, Charlene could only endure with all her might. Otherwise, she would be accused of slandering the princess. Qing'er and Qin Wenyan both coldly laughed. Only to see Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan speaking, "Princess, earlier, I acted out of anger without investigating the truth. It is this subordinate's fault. However, the princess has already punished this subordinate. As for this matter, this subordinate will definitely find out who is in the right and who is in the wrong. At that time, I will give the princess an explanation." Right now, the best solution for Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan was to drag this matter out and send Qing'er away. "You also know that you acted without investigating the truth, yet you are so protective of the princess. Do you want me to wait for you to investigate? Is this a joke?" Qin Wenyan laughed. Qing'er also spoke. "Let me ask you one more time. Are you going to give me an explanation or not?" Qing'er didn't like to speak, nor did she like to cause trouble. But this time around, for the sake of Qin Wenyan, she had to stand out no matter what. A mere Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan actually dared to kill Qin Wenyan. If she brought Qin Wenyan into the royal palace, how much pressure would Qin Wenyan have to face? This was something she couldn't endure. Qin Wenyan is the princess lover. The princess naturally trusts him. However, this doesn't represent the truth. At the very least, you have to give me an opportunity to investigate this matter. Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan still refused to admit her guilt. Qing'er stepped out, moving towards Charlene. This scene caused the countenance of Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan to freeze, as well as Charlene. Boom! A powerful spatial fluctuation gushed forth as Qing'er directly appeared in front of Charlene. She lifted her hand and grabbed Charlene. Instantly, a terrifying spatial energy enveloped Charlene, causing the countenances of those from the Everpeace Marquis Manor to drastically change. However, even Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan didn't do anything to stop her. If she did, she would have to act against Qing'er. If that was the case, things would only worsen. "Since you want to protect me, I can only do it myself. Me and Qin Wenyan came to the Everpeace Marquis Manor as a guest, yet Qin Wenyan was slandered and almost killed. Charlene offended my superior and killed my friend. This is a crime worthy of death." Qing'er's icy voice rang out. Charlene stared at that pair of cold eyes. She finally felt fear as her body trembled. "Princess, my father, the Cloud King, has contributed so much to the Everpeace Marquis Manor. Could it be that Princess only believes in your own judgment and wants to kill my daughter and the granddaughter of the Cloud King, causing the hearts of the other nobles to turn cold?" The Everpeace Marquis Madam used the Cloud King and the Everpeace Marquis Manor as an excuse to suppress Qing. Because of the Cloud King's battle achievements, because of the contributions of the Everpeace Marquis Manor, all of you can kill my friend in front of me. If your contributions were even greater, wouldn't you be able to kill me in front of my father? As the sound of Qing'er's voice rang out, the hearts of everyone present trembled. Her words were truly ruthless. Boom! A violent spatial energy gushed forth from Qing'er, causing the countenances of the crowd to drastically change. Marquis Madame Qin Wenyan roared, "Princess! Princess, please stay your hand." A thunderous voice rang out in the air as an imposing silhouette appeared, instantly descending from the sky. His eyes stared fixedly at Qing'er and Charlene as he spoke. "Everpeace Marquis has failed to educate his daughter properly and will definitely punish her severely. Princess, please spare her life." Qing'er turned her head and stared at Marquis Qin Wenin. Her aura didn't restrain at all, and the coldness in her eyes grew even more intense. She stared at Marquis Qin Wenin as she icily spoke. Seclusion? So it turns out that Marquis Everpeace has always been watching your daughters slandering Qin Wenin, watching them join forces to kill Qin Wenin, watching as your madam tried to kill him without distinguishing between right and wrong. What a good Everpeace Marquis manner. As she spoke, Qing'er's long hair fluttered in the wind as her aura grew colder to the extreme. Marquis Everpeace's countenance drastically changed, after which, Qing'er's palm pressed down as boundless spatial energy blasted forth. Charlene inclined her head, her long hair fluttered in the wind as a scream of misery rang out from her mouth. At this instant, the faces of everyone were as pale as paper. Charlene. Marquis Madam stepped out, directly appearing beside Qing'er. A terrifying might gushed forth from her, boring down on Qing'er. However, Qing'er merely inclined her head and stared at her. Would Marquis Madam dare to act? Marquis Madam also appeared, pulling on her arm, telling her to endure. If she really acted against the princess, that would be equivalent to rebelling. If the Everpeace Marquis Manor were to blame her, they would be annihilated in the blink of an eye. Princess, are you satisfied now? Marquis Madam's voice trembled as she stared at Charlene, who was slowly collapsing to the ground. Qing'er stared at her as she slowly spoke. You should be thankful that you met the current me. If I had sufficient strength, all those who dared to act against Qin Wenin today would all be annihilated, including you. Qing'er stared at the Marquis Madam. Her domineering and cold voice caused her to feel a chill run down her spine. She could clearly feel the determination of the princess. She finally understood that Charlene was wrong, extremely wrong. Given the status of Qin Wenin in the heart of the princess, if she had sufficient strength, she would definitely raze the entire Marquis Manor to the ground. However, Charlene purposely slandered and even acted to kill Qin Wenin. How could she live? This person cannot be antagonized. Those from the Everpeace Marquis Manor stared at Qin Wenin as they silently mused in their hearts. If they dared to touch him, it would be akin to touching the reverse scale of the princess. Everpeace Marquis, I order you to immediately activate the teleportation array and send me to the royal palace. Qing'er stared at the Marquis as she spoke. The countenance of the Marquis stiffened as he stiffly replied, Yes, princess. After speaking, he turned and soared into the air, with Qing'er and Qin Wenin following behind. Qin Wenin stretched out his hands, grabbing onto Qing'er tightly. He naturally understood that the reason why Qing'er was so domineering was all because of him. Not only for the sake of the Everpeace Marquis Manor, but also for the sake of the royal palace. Qin Wenin would be able to establish a foothold in the land of nobility, preventing others from offending him. If not, even the Everpeace Marquis Manor dared to take his life, who would still care about Qin Wenin in the royal palace. At the location of the teleportation array, a bright light flashed as it was activated. Qin Wenin and Qing'er stepped into it, and an intense spatial fluctuation erupted forth as the two of them vanished from sight. At the instant they disappeared, a terrifying aura gushed forth from the Marquis, transforming into a terrifying tempest. His silhouette flickered, and in the blink of an eye, he returned to the place where Charlene had fallen. Only to see that at this moment, the entire place was deathly silent. The Marquis Madam hugged Charlene's corpse as she coldly stated, I want to bring Charlene to the royal palace. The hearts of everyone shuddered. They knew what the madam wanted to do. She wanted to complain to the Cloud King. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.